Tonight, let the world grow quieter. Wherever you are, allow the day to loosen its grip. Let the shoulders soften. Let the jaw unclench. And if your mind is still moving, still replaying conversations, still counting unfinished tasks, you don't need to fight it. Just notice it. Like watching clouds drift across a moonlit sky, you can let thoughts pass without following them. Take one slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Welcome to the long night, a place for slow stories, ancient wisdom, and the kind of calm that doesn't demand anything from you. If these quiet journeys help you rest, you can support the channel by subscribing. It's a small gesture, but it helps. The long night continue creating long, gentle teachings you can return to whenever sleep feels far away. Now settle in. In the old mountains of Japan, long before the world became crowded with screens and noise, there were temples tucked into cedar forests, where lantern light trembled in the wind and the sound of a bell could travel for miles. People came to these temples for many reasons. Some came for teachings. Some came for refuge. Some came because they could not bear the weight of their own hearts any longer. And sometimes, people came because they wanted someone to blame. Tonight's first story is about a Zen master whose calm was tested in a way that would shake most of us to our core. It is about reputation shame and the strange freedom that appears when a person no longer tries to protect an image. So let your breathing slow and let the first story carry you gently towards stillness. Is that so? Master Haroon. In a small village not far from the mountain foothills, there lived a Zen teacher named Master Haroon. He was not famous in the way powerful men are famous. He did not command armies or hold political titles. Yet the villagers spoke his name with a quiet respect, like one speaks of clean water or a steady fire. Master Haroon lived simply. Each morning before dawn, he rose and washed his face in cold water. He swept the temple steps. He tended the small garden where moss grew thick between stones. Then he sat in meditation as if sitting were not something he did, but something he was. Over the years, people came to him with countless questions. How do I stop my anger? How do I forgive someone who hurt me? How do I quiet my mind? And Master Haroon would listen. Sometimes he answered with a few words. Sometimes he answered with none. Sometimes he answered by pouring tea slowly, carefully, so that the one asking could finally notice what was already present. He was known as a man of deep composure, unmoving like a mountain. But even mountains, as you know, can be struck by storms. Not far from the temple, a teenage girl lived with her parents. She was young, still carrying the softness and confusion of becoming someone. She helped at home, fetched water-cooked rice, and tried to avoid the sharp eyes of her mother when she made small mistakes. In that village, reputation mattered. It was a place where people remembered everything, where a rumor could circle the streets like smoke and settle into every household by nightfall. And one day, the girl's belly began to swell. At first, she tried to hide it beneath loose clothing, but the body does not keep secrets for long. Her mother noticed, then her father. There was shouting in their home, harsh words, tears, a silence that felt like a blade. Who is the father, they demanded. The girl trembled. Her eyes would not lift. I cannot say, she whispered. Her parents pressed harder. They threatened her. They pleaded. They shamed her. Still she resisted. But shame is a heavy stone, and a young heart can only carry it so long. At last, under the crushing force of fear, she spoke a name, not the true name, but a name she believed would end the torment. She said, "It was Master Harun." The room went cold. Her mother's face tightened with rage. Her father's hands clenched. For a moment there was only the sound of breath. Then her father spat the words like poison. "That man, that holy man, that one who sits above us all, pretending to be pure." The parents stormed through the village, their anger blazing like torches. They told neighbors. They told shopkeepers. They told anyone who would listen. A scandal began to rise. People who had once bowed to Master Harun now whispered behind their hands. Some shook their heads and said, "So even he is like the rest of them." Some grew outraged. Some felt secretly satisfied, because nothing is more comforting to the ego than discovering that someone you admired is flawed. Soon the girl's parents marched straight to the temple. The temple gates were open as they always were. They climbed the stone steps with fury in their bodies and judgment in their eyes. Their voices echoed across the courtyard as if they wanted the whole mountain to hear. Master Harun was in the garden, trimming a small plant, his movements unhurried. When he noticed them, he stood, bowed politely, and waited. The girl's father stepped forward first. "You fraud," he said. The mother followed her voice sharp with pain. "Our daughter is with child," she shouted, "and she says, 'You are the father.'" The air seemed to tighten. Even the wind felt still. For an ordinary person, this moment would be unbearable. To be accused like this, to be dishonored, to be hated by the very people who once respected you. The mind would rush to defend itself, to argue, to shout the truth, to demand justice. You can feel it, can't you? That instant surge of, "No, this is wrong. This is not who I am. How dare you?" The desperate need to control how others see you. But Master Harun did not flinch. He did not raise his voice. He did not plead. He did not justify himself. He simply looked at them with clear eyes, as if he were listening to the weather. And after a pause, he said only 2 words. "Is that so?" The parents stared at him. The mother's anger wavered, confused by his calm. The father's face reddened, as if the lack of resistance insulted him even more. "You admit it," he demanded. "You don't deny it." Master Harun's expression remained gentle and plain. He did not admit. He did not deny. He only said, again quietly, as if speaking to a crying child, "Is that so?" The parents left the temple in outrage, certain they had exposed a hidden hypocrisy. And the village continued to whisper. From that day on, everything changed. People avoided the temple. Offerings dwindled. The friendly greetings disappeared. And Master Harun continued. He swept the steps. He tended the garden. He sat in stillness. Because in his eyes, the storm of reputation was no different from the storm of rain. It came. It passed. Yet something else was on the horizon. Something that would test his compassion, not with words, but with responsibility. Because a child was coming. And soon, they would bring it to his door. The village did not let the rumor die. It moved from mouth to mouth the way wind moves through dry grass, quickly, endlessly, without needing proof. Each retelling grew sharper, more certain, more righteous. And the people who once brought rice and tea to the temple now crossed the road to avoid it. The children who used to play near the gate were called back by their mothers. The men who once bowed their heads now lifted their chins as if they had been waiting for the chance to look down on someone. Inside the temple, Nothing dramatic happened. No argument echoed through the courtyard. No furious denial rang from the hall. Master Harun simply lived. In the morning, he swept the steps. At noon, he tended the garden. At night, he sat. If there was pain in him, it did not appear on his face. If there was anger, it did not come out as words. When the mind can no longer cling to an image, something deeper becomes possible, and yet, the consequences of other people's beliefs still arrive. Weeks passed, then months. The girl's body grew heavier. Her steps slowed. Her breath came shorter. She hid from the eyes of neighbors, ashamed of what she had become in their stories. Her parents, though still furious, were also afraid. Not because they worried for their daughter's heart, but because they worried about the village's judgment. In a place like that, dishonor is contagious. So they searched for a way to remove the problem from their household, a way to wash their hands of it. And one day, when the child was finally born, they wrapped the newborn in cloth, placed a few worn blankets beside it, and marched up the mountain to the temple. The air was cold that morning. Mist curled between the cedar trees. The temple roof was damp with dew. Master Harun was outside rinsing a bowl at the water basin when he saw them coming. He set the bowl down and waited. The mother held the baby. It was small and red-faced, with fists clenched tight, crying with the pure honesty of a new life. The father stepped forward, his voice like stone. "Here," he said, "this is your child." The mother thrust the bundle forward, as if she were returning something spoiled. "You brought shame to our family," she said, eyes bright with anger. "Now you will take responsibility." Behind them, a few villagers had followed at a distance watching. Curiosity gathered around the scene like crows. Master Harun looked at the baby. He did not recoil. He did not protest. He did not glance toward the watching crowd with fear of what they would think. He simply reached out and took the child into his arms. For a moment, the baby's cries softened, confused perhaps, by the warmth and steadiness of his hold. Master Harun nodded once, as if receiving a simple gift. And he said, just as he had said before, "Is that so?" The parents blinked, thrown again by the calmness. They had come prepared for a fight, prepared for denial, prepared to feel victorious. Instead, they were met with a quiet acceptance that left no place for their rage to land. The father clenched his jaw. "You will feed it," he said sharply. "You will raise it. Everyone will know what you've done." Master Harun bowed, not in submission, but in simple acknowledgement of what had been placed into his care. The parents turned and left. The villagers who had followed stared for a moment, then murmured among themselves. Some looked satisfied. Some looked disgusted. Some looked uncertain, because the scene did not match the drama they had imagined. And then they too drifted away down the mountain. Master Harun carried the baby inside. He laid the child on a small mat near the hearth. He warmed milk. He cleaned the baby with a cloth. He wrapped it gently as if wrapping something precious. From that day forward, the temple changed. The sound of chanting was joined by the cries of an infant. The silence of meditation was punctuated by soft footsteps pacing the floor at night. The simple meals now required extra bowls, and Master Harun did what needed to be done. He begged for milk in the village, not from pride, not from self-protection, but because a child needs to live. He walked down the mountain with the baby tucked close, stopping at homes that once welcomed him and now looked at him with cold eyes. Some shut their doors. Some handed him scraps with contempt, as if feeding him were feeding a sinner. Some whispered, "So this is what holiness looks like," with bitter laughter. Master Harun accepted everything quietly. He did not ask for sympathy. He did not explain. He did not correct their assumptions. He only cared for the child. Night after night, he rose when the baby cried. He changed cloth. He warmed milk. He rocked the small body until it fell asleep. In the dim light of the temple, with the mountain wind brushing the walls, Master Harun's face did not show resentment. It showed presence. Because the story was never about whether he had done the thing they accused him of. The story was about this. When the world gives you blame, can you remain gentle? When life hands you a burden, can you carry it without poisoning your own heart? When your name is dragged through mud, can you still wash someone else's feet? Months turned into a year, then another. The baby became a toddler, learning to stand, then to stumble across the wooden floor. Small hands grabbed at Master Harun's robes. Small laughter filled the hall like bells. And the village slowly moved on to other gossip. New scandals arrived, new arguments, new distractions, but the memory remained. People still looked at Master Harun with suspicion, and Master Harun still swept the steps, still tended the garden, still sat in meditation, as if nothing had ever been taken from him, because perhaps nothing truly had. Then one afternoon, footsteps returned to the temple gate. The same parents, but their bodies had changed. They did not walk with anger this time. They walked with a kind of panic, sharp, urgent trembling. They bowed stiffly as if the bow hurt. The father spoke first, his voice tight. We have made a mistake." The mother's eyes were wet. "Our daughter has confessed," she said. "Master Harun, you were not the father." Her words hung in the air like a bell tone. They explained in broken sentences that the real father was a young man from the village. The girl had been afraid to name him. In her terror, she had chosen a name that felt untouchable, one that would end the questioning. And now, after years of guilt, she could not hold the lie any longer. The parents swallowed their pride. They had come to take the child back, to repair their family, to undo what they had done. They looked at Master Harun as if expecting fury to erupt at last, as if expecting him to demand an apology so loud the village would hear it. Master Harun listened. He did not smile. He did not scold. He did not say, "I told you so." He simply nodded as if the truth were an ordinary thing, like rain finally falling after a dry season. Then he turned toward the small child who was playing nearby with a wooden spoon. Master Harun lifted the child into his arms. The toddler pressed a cheek against his robe, comfortable, trusting, unaware of the story that had shaped its life. Master Harun carried the child to the parents, and as he handed the child over gently, carefully, as if returning something precious, he said the same words in the same calm voice. "Is that so?" And in that moment, something in the parents broke open. Not just their pride, not just their anger, but the illusion that their judgments had ever been solid. Because here was a man who had been dishonored, burdened, and despised. And he had not used it as a weapon. He had simply cared for what was placed in his hands. The parents bowed this time deeply. Then they left, holding the child close. Master Harun watched them disappear down the mountain path. The temple grew quiet again, but not the old kind of quiet. This quiet felt wider, like the sky after a storm has passed. And as evening settled, Master Harun returned to his routine. He swept the steps. He tended the garden. He sat. Because in Zen, the point is not to win the world's approval. The point is to remain free. After the child was carried down the mountain path, the temple returned to its older rhythm. Morning mist still threaded itself between cedar trunks like pale silk. The wind still moved along the roof tiles with that soft, steady murmur that sounded almost like chanting from another world. In the courtyard, a bamboo broom still whispered across stone, patient and unhurried. And Master Harun still lived as he always had. Not because he had forgotten what happened, but because he did not keep it in his heart as a debt. In a place like that, the mountain taught you to let things arrive, and past clouds arriving, and passing leaves falling, and returning storms coming, and emptying themselves into the earth. In time, the village quieted too. People found new scandals to feed on new quarrels, to sharpen their tongues against. The memory of the accusation faded into something less dramatic, more like a distant echo. The temple remained as it always had. Open gates, clean steps, a garden tended with care. And still, seekers came. One afternoon, a young monk named Renji arrived at the temple. He was not loud or arrogant. In fact, there was an earnestness in him that made him seem almost fragile, like a person who had read many beautiful words and was desperate to turn them into something real. He bowed deeply at the gate, introduced himself with respectful formality, and asked permission to stay and practice. Master Harun, quiet as a pond, accepted him with a nod. So Renji began the life of the temple. He woke before dawn. He washed his face in cold water. He carried buckets, scrubbed floors, chopped wood, and sat for long hours in meditation. At first, he believed awakening would arrive like a grand event. He imagined it as a moment of thunder, something bright and undeniable that would split his life into before and after. He imagined himself being changed forever, like iron transformed in a forge. But the days did not deliver thunder. They delivered dishes. They delivered sweeping. They delivered sore knees and sleepiness, and endless thoughts rising like insects in summer. Renji did not complain, but inside he felt a quiet frustration. He was practicing hard. So why did he still feel so ordinary? One evening, after a day of labor and sitting, Renji was assigned a simple task. Master Harun was preparing to bathe. The bathhouse was small, built of wood and stone, warmed by a fire beneath a shallow basin. Renji was told to bring water. He carried a bucket from the well to the bathhouse, careful not to spill. The water was cold, and the bucket's weight pulled at his arms. When he arrived, he poured it into the basin, watching steam begin to rise as it met the warmth. There was only a little water left in the bucket afterward, perhaps a cup, perhaps less. Renji hesitated. It seemed too little to matter. A small remainder. Without thinking much, he stepped outside and tipped the bucket toward the ground, letting the leftover water spill into the dirt beside the bathhouse. He was already turning back toward the well when he heard Master Harun's voice behind him. Not angry, not shouting, just clear. Renji. The young monk stopped and turned. Master Harun was standing at the doorway, looking at the damp earth where the water had disappeared. Renji bowed quickly. Yes. Master Harun's eyes rested on the spot, as if he were reading a sutra written in mud. "Why did you throw it away?" he asked. Renji blinked, confused. "It was only a little," he said. "Not enough to use." Master Harun did not raise his voice. He simply said, "Not enough to use," for whom Renji opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer that did not sound shallow. Master Harun stepped closer. His sandals made a soft sound on the wooden floor. He pointed gently toward the wet earth. "That water was clear," he said. "It came from the same well as the water you poured into the bath. If it is clear enough for the bath, it is clear enough for life." Renji's face warmed with embarrassment. "I didn't mean." Master Harun lifted a hand, not to silence him harshly, but to stop him from hiding behind explanation. "If you believe it is not enough," Master Harun said, "then you have decided what is worthy and what is not. You have decided what matters and what does not. You have decided what is sacred and what is disposable." Renji swallowed. The words were simple, but they landed like a stone dropped into still water. Master Harun continued, his tone gentle but unwavering. "A monk does not waste," he said. "Not because the monastery is poor, though it often is. Not because the rules demand it, though they do. A monk does not waste because waste begins in the mind." Renji looked down. He could feel the truth of it. The act itself was small, almost nothing. Yet it revealed something in him, a habit of carelessness, a habit of treating what was small as meaningless. Master Harun reached for the bucket, turned it in Renji's hands, and tipped it slightly so the remaining drops gathered at the rim. "Look," he said. A few drops clung there, trembling. "Even this," Master Harun said, "can be offered." He stepped to the side of the bathhouse, where a small patch of moss grew between stones. He let the drops fall slowly onto the moss. The green darkened as it drank. Then he turned back to Renji. "In Zen," he said, "the great is not separate from the small. The path is not separate from the kitchen. Awakening is not separate from how you hold a bucket." Renji felt something in his chest tighten, not with shame alone, but with recognition. He had been hunting for thunder, waiting for lightning. And here was the teaching, standing quietly in a few wasted drops. Master Harun's gaze softened. "You practice as if the purpose is somewhere else," he said. "But the purpose is here. The mind that wastes water will waste moments. The mind that wastes moments will waste a life." Renji bowed deeply, lower than before. "I understand," he said, though he knew he only understood with his head. Master Harun did not scold him further. He did not humiliate him. He simply nodded once as if saying, "Good. Now practice." That night, when Renji returned to the meditation hall, he sat differently. Not more rigid, not more heroic, just more attentive. He noticed how he placed his sandals, how he folded his robe, how he breathed. And when thoughts rose, plans, memories, fantasies, he saw them like small spills of attention. He did not fight them. He simply returned, drop by drop, to what was here. The next day, and the day after, he carried water again. And each time he remembered the moss darkening beneath the last drops. He began to see that what he called little was only little because he treated it that way. A cup of water, a bowl of rice, a single breath. None of it was insignificant, because a life is not made of grand awakenings. A life is made of moments, and Zen quiet, uncompromising. Zen was asking him to stop throwing them away. Renji's lessons stayed in the temple like a quiet fragrance, not because anyone spoke about it endlessly, and not because Master Harun turned it into a sermon, but because certain teachings have a way of changing the air. After a while, you begin to feel them in how people move, how a bowl is set down, how a door is closed, how silence is kept. And yet not every teaching arrives through a spilled drop of water. Some arrive through something far more final, through the simple, unbearable fact that a human life does not last. It was around that time when the leaves were beginning to thin and the evenings carried a sharper chill. That word reached the mountain about an old teacher living farther away, deep in the countryside. His name was Master Baishu. Unlike Master Harun, who lived near a village and received a steady stream of visitors, Master Baishu had withdrawn for many years into a quieter place. His dwelling was modest, nearly hidden among trees and rock, where the paths were narrow and the world felt stripped down to essentials. People who met him described him in plain terms. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't entertain questions. He sees right through you. But those same people, if they were honest, also described a strange peace that seemed to linger after they left him, as if he had rearranged something inside them without ever touching it. Master Baishu was old now. His hands had the thinness of age veins, like pale roots beneath the skin. His steps were slower. His voice, when he used it, came out like dry leaves, rubbing together, quiet, but unmistakably present. He had taught many students in his earlier years, but only a few had stayed close enough to become truly shaped by him. One of them was a young man named Akio. Akio had entered the monastery as a boy, restless, sensitive, and hungry for certainty. He had carried inside him the bright impatience of youth, the kind that cannot bear the idea that truth might require waiting. At first, he clashed with the discipline. He wanted answers that sounded like answers. He wanted progress he could measure. He wanted reassurance that his effort was leading somewhere. Master Baishu did not feed any of that. He gave Akio chores. He gave him silence. He gave him hard, ordinary days. And slowly over time, something in Akio softened. The sharp edges of seeking began to wear down. The boy became steadier, less dramatic. The same hunger remained, but it stopped demanding to be satisfied immediately. Years passed. Akio grew into a young monk, then into a capable one. Eventually, as happens in monasteries, duties changed and paths diverged. Akio was sent to another temple, then another, carrying the training he had received as quietly as a flame carried under a cloak. But he never forgot Master Baishu. He wrote letters, sometimes short, respectful notes about his practice, his struggles, his efforts to keep the mind from drifting. And Master Baishu, who rarely wrote to anyone, occasionally sent back a single line. Do not decorate the truth. Sit until sitting sits you. Stop searching for what is already here. Akio kept those lines like small stones in his pocket. Then one winter, a messenger arrived at Master Baishu's dwelling. The messenger was a monk from Akio's current temple, his robes damp from travel, his face worn with concern. He bowed deeply at the threshold and spoke with the careful seriousness of someone carrying heavy news. Master, he said, I have come about Akio. Master Baishu did not rush him. He poured tea as if time were still time, no faster, no slower, because of fear. The steam rose, the cups warmed. The simple ritual made space for truth to settle. Only then did the messenger speak again. "Akio is ill," he said. "It happened quickly. The physician says it may not be long." For a moment, the room felt larger, not because anything changed outside, but because the mind, when it hears death approaching, suddenly understands the vastness it usually ignores. Master Baishu looked at the tea in his cup. His face did not tighten into grief the way younger faces do. It did not collapse into denial. If there was sorrow, it moved through him without becoming a storm. He nodded once. "Where is he?" he asked. The messenger named the temple and the province. It was not close. Master Baishu listened, then said something unexpected. "I will not go," he said. The messenger blinked, stunned. "Master, Akio knows where I am," Master Baishu said. "And I know where he is." The messenger didn't understand. His eyes dropped, confused and perhaps disappointed. In his mind, compassion meant traveling, holding a hand, sitting at a bedside. Master Baishu did not argue with his assumptions. He simply stood. He moved to the corner of the room where writing tools were kept. A brush, a stone for ink paper, stacked neatly as if waiting for a moment that rarely came. He sat down in front of the low table and began to grind ink slowly, adding a few drops of water, circling the stone with steady patience. The sound was soft, rhythmic, like rain on wood. The messenger watched silent. When the ink was ready, Master Baishu lifted the brush and held it above the paper for a long time, unmoving. It was not hesitation, it was attention, as if the brush were listening before it spoke. Then with a single breath, he began to write. The characters formed cleanly, without decoration, without flourish. Each stroke looked inevitable, like it could not have been otherwise. The messenger leaned forward slightly, trying not to intrude, trying to see without forcing. When Master Baishu finished, he placed the brush down and looked at the paper as if he were looking at a mirror. He did not seal it immediately. Instead, he read what he had written once more quietly to himself, his lips barely moving. Then he folded the letter. He held it for a moment in his hands as if feeling its weight. And only then did he speak to the messenger. "Take this to Akio," he said. The messenger accepted it with both hands and bowed. But before he could leave, he asked the question he could not keep inside. "Master," he said, "what did you write?" Master Baishu's eyes rested on him, calm, almost kind. "What is there to write?" he asked. The messenger swallowed. Something to comfort him. Master Baishu gave a small nod, as if acknowledging the human wish behind the question. Then he said simply, "I wrote what he already knows." The messenger did not understand. Not yet. He tucked the letter inside his robe and left into the cold air, beginning the long journey back. Inside the dwelling, Master Baishu returned to his tea. Outside, the winter wind moved through branches like a low, steady chant. And somewhere far away, a young monk named Akio lay in a bed listening to his own breath. Each inhale and exhale growing more precious, more fragile, without knowing that a letter was on its way to him, carrying not comfort in the usual sense, but something sharper, something true, something that could meet death without blinking. The messenger traveled for 2 days through winter roads. He walked where the path was too narrow for a cart, and rode where the ground opened into wider lanes. Snow gathered in the folds of his robe. His hands went numb more than once. And all the while, the letter pressed gently against his chest, as if it carried its own warmth. When he finally reached Akio's temple, dusk was settling. The buildings looked dim and quiet, as temples often do in the cold season lanterns. Low footsteps softened by snow. Inside, monks moved with careful silence, the way people move when they are trying not to disturb the fragile boundary between life and death. The messenger was taken at once to the small room where Akio lay. Akio's face had changed. Not beyond recognition, but enough to make the messenger's throat tighten. The young monk who used to carry water buckets with steady arms now looked thin, his cheeks slightly hollow, his breath shallow. His eyes were open, though clearer in a strange way than they had ever been in health. When the messenger entered, Akio turned his head slowly. Recognition flickered across his face, like a candle catching. "You came from Master Baishu," Akio whispered. The messenger bowed. "Yes." He reached into his robe and drew out the letter, holding it with both hands. The paper looked plain. No ornament, no seal of importance. Just a simple fold, as if it were not meant to impress anyone, only to arrive. Akio's fingers were weak, but he reached for it. The messenger helped him take it without tearing the paper. For a moment, Akio did not open it. He held it against his palm, feeling its texture, as if the touch itself were already a kind of teaching. His eyes closed briefly. Then he took a slow breath and unfolded it. The messenger watched in silence as Akio read. At first, there was no visible reaction, only the movement of Akio's eyes across the lines. But as the seconds passed, something shifted. The muscles around his mouth softened. His brow, which had been faintly tight with pain, loosened as if releasing a knot. When he finished, Akio kept staring at the paper, not lost, not confused, as if he were looking at a door that had quietly opened. The messenger couldn't hold it in any longer. "What did he write?" he asked softly. Akio's voice came out like breath over ash. He wrote, "Akio said that the mind is not born." The messenger blinked. "Not born." Akio nodded and looked down at the letter again, as if wanting to honor each word by holding it carefully. He wrote, Akio continued, "The mind you fear losing was never born, so it cannot die." The messenger felt a chill, but not from the winter. Akio read aloud more, his voice steadying as he spoke. "The body comes and goes like frost on grass. It appears at dawn, and by noon the sun has taken it. But the clear knowing that sees the frost is not the frost." Akio paused, swallowing with difficulty. The messenger leaned closer, hearing not just the words, but the space behind them. Akio went on, "Do not mistake the snowflake for the sky. Do not mistake the wave for the water. What you truly are does not begin at birth, and it does not end at death." The room felt very quiet. Even outside, the wind seemed to have lowered its voice. The messenger's chest tightened with emotion he couldn't name. Part of him wanted to say, "But Akio is dying. How can this help?" Another part of him recognized that this was exactly what death demanded, a truth that could stand without comfort. Akio lowered the letter slightly and looked at the messenger. "Master Baishu didn't write, 'Be brave,'" he said. "He didn't write, 'Don't be afraid.' He didn't pretend this isn't happening." A faint smile moved across Akio's lips, almost tender. He wrote, "Akio said, 'When you're cold, be cold. When you're in pain, be in pain. But do not add the second suffering, the story that says this should not be so.'" The messenger felt his eyes sting. Akio's gaze drifted toward the small paper window, where the last light of day was fading into grey. I've spent my life trying to understand, Akio whispered, trying to hold the Dharma like a thing I could grasp. He looked back down at the letter, and now he tells me, there is nothing to hold. His breathing grew shallow for a few moments. The messenger waited, afraid that even a word might disturb him. Then Akio spoke again. He wrote, "A fire burns, and then it becomes ash. The ash is not a tragedy. It is what fire does. Do not call the natural movement of things a mistake." Akio's fingers trembled slightly as he folded the letter again, slowly, reverently. The messenger felt a strange shift inside himself too. He had assumed compassion meant adding softness, adding reassurance, adding something sweet to swallow. But Master Baishu had offered something else, something cleaner, a truth that did not depend on outcome. Akio closed his eyes for a moment and rested the folded letter against his chest. In that posture, he looked less like a sick man and more like a monk who had finally found the most direct practice. Not sitting in a hall, not carrying water, not debating sutras, but meeting the last door with open hands. The messenger sat beside him quietly, not knowing what else to do. A long time passed. At some point, Akio opened his eyes again. "You should go," he murmured. The messenger hesitated. "Do you need Akio?" Shook his head faintly. "No," he said. "This is enough." The messenger bowed deeply and backed away. As he left the room, he passed monks in the corridor. They looked at his face and seemed to understand that something had happened, something subtle but significant. Outside, night had fully arrived. The temple lanterns glowed in the snow like small moons. Inside Akio's room, the air was very still. He lay with the letter against his chest, listening to his own breath. Inhale, exhale, each one softer than the last. And in the space between them, there was no panic, no bargaining, no desperate reaching, only a simple clarity like a winter sky. Because when you stop clinging to what was never truly yours, even death cannot take it. Not long after the winter, when Akio received Master Baishu's letter, another story was being written in a very different place. This time, not in a remote hut among trees, and not in a quiet mountain temple where the wind did most of the talking. This story began in a crowded hall. There was a monastery in the city, known for scholarship rows of shelves, heavy with sutras, commentaries, and meticulously copied texts. The monks there were not unkind, but their world was shaped by study, memorization, debate, mastery of words. And in that monastery, there was a teacher whose name carried real prestige. His name was Master Joan. People called him brilliant. They said he could quote the sutras as easily as breathing. They said he could debate for hours without faltering, weaving doctrine and philosophy into something that sounded like a perfect net. Tight, complete, impossible to escape. Students traveled long distances to sit at his feet. When Master Joan walked through the courtyard, younger monks straightened their backs. When he spoke, they leaned forward, hungry for each phrase, each reference, each elegant explanation. Master Joan was respected, and in a way, he deserved it. He had worked hard. He had studied until his eyes burned and his throat went dry. He had trained his mind to hold vast systems of teaching without losing a thread. But there was a subtle thing that happens when intelligence becomes a throne. You begin to live in the words instead of in the world. You begin to mistake a map for the land itself. Master Joan's days followed a proud rhythm. He rose early, read texts, taught classes, held formal discussions. In the evenings, he received visitors, wealthy patrons, officials, even other teachers who came to test him, or praise him, or borrow some of his shine. When he spoke with certainty. When a student asked a question, he answered quickly, expertly, sometimes so quickly that the student felt impressed before he even understood. And around him, admiration grew like ivy. One afternoon, after a long day of teaching, a novice approached him with a small bundle of letters. "Master," the novice said, bowing, "these arrived from your home village." Master Joan barely looked up at first. "Set them there," he said, already reaching for another scroll. But then he noticed the handwriting on the top envelope. It was familiar, in a way that tugged at something inside him, something older than doctrine. His mother. He took the letter without ceremony and turned it over in his hands. For a moment, his expression softened, not much, but enough that the novice noticed. Then Master Joan dismissed the novice with a nod and carried the letter into his private room. He sat at his low table. A lantern burned beside him, casting warm light over the paper. He broke the seal and unfolded the letter. At first he expected something simple, a blessing, a prayer, perhaps news from home. His mother was not educated in the monastery sense. She could not quote sutras. She could not argue doctrine. Her world was field seasons, cooking fires, ordinary aches. Master Joan had always been proud that he had risen beyond that world. He began reading, and within a few lines, he felt his chest tighten. The letter was not long, but it was direct in a way that did not flatter him. His mother wrote with plain honesty, like someone speaking from the heart without trying to impress. She told him she had heard people in the village praise him. She had heard that he was now famous for his knowledge, that he spoke like a great sage, that he could answer any question. Then she wrote something that struck him harder than any insult. "My son," she wrote, "when you were a child, you used to help me carry water. You used to laugh easily. You used to look at the moon and be quiet. I do not hear that quietness in you anymore." Master Joan's fingers tightened slightly on the paper. He kept reading. His mother wrote that she was proud of his devotion, proud that he had chosen the path of practice. But she also wrote that she feared he had become a man who could speak beautifully about the Dharma, while forgetting to live it. She described him, without meaning to be cruel, as a kind of walking library. A dictionary, she wrote, full of words, full of explanations. "But tell me, my son, do you still have a heart that can be touched by a single bowl of rice?" Master Joan's throat went dry. The lantern flame wavered slightly, as if it too had been disturbed. His mother continued. She said she did not understand the sophisticated teachings he spoke about, but she understood kindness. She understood humility. She understood the difference between a person who is awake and a person who is merely clever. Then came the line that made Master Joan stop breathing for a moment. "If you have climbed a mountain of words," she wrote, "but you cannot see the flower at your feet, then what have you climbed?" Master Joan stared at the paper. Something in him wanted to defend himself. He wanted to say, "You don't understand. This is how teaching works. Knowledge matters. Study matters. People come to me for answers." But another part of him, older, quieter, felt the truth of the accusation, because he knew what his mother meant. He knew the subtle dryness that had entered his practice. He knew how often he had felt superior, how often he had used words like armor, how often during meditation he had been thinking about what he would teach next, instead of simply sitting. The letter was not cruel, it was loving, and that was why it hurt, because love has no interest in protecting your pride. Master Joan read the last lines. His mother wrote that she was growing older, that her hands were weaker now, that she could no longer work in the fields as she once had. She did not complain. She did not beg him to come home. She simply wrote, "I do not need you to be famous," she said. "I need you to be real. If your practice is true, it should make you kinder. It should make you simpler. It should make you more human." Master Joan lowered the letter slowly. For a long time he sat without moving. The hall outside was quiet. The monastery carried on. Somewhere monks were chanting. Somewhere footsteps crossed the courtyard. But inside his room, something had cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, like ice beginning to split under the first warmth of spring. He looked at the shelves of books lining the walls. Hundreds of volumes, thousands of pages. A lifetime of study staring back at him like a crowd. And in that moment, Master Joan felt a thought rise in him. Simple, unmistakable. Have I mistaken the finger that points for the moon itself? He folded his mother's letter carefully and held it against his palm. The paper felt ordinary, but the truth inside it felt like a blade that could cut through a lifetime of cleverness. And that night, Master Joan did something he had not done in years. He sat down in meditation, not as a teacher, not as a scholar, not as a man who knew, but as a human being who suddenly realized he might not. That night, Master Joan sat in the dim light of his room long after the monastery had quieted. He did not open another scroll. He did not rehearse tomorrow's lecture. He did not reach for a clever explanation to soothe the sting. He simply sat with his mother's letter resting beside him like a small stone dropped into the center of his life. At first, his mind did what minds often do when confronted with uncomfortable truth. It tried to bargain. She doesn't understand how much responsibility I carry. If I stop teaching, who will guide the students? Study is part of the path too. Each thought arrived dressed as reason. But beneath them something else was moving, something quieter, more honest. A recognition he could not avoid that he had begun to use the Dharma as a performance. Even meditation in recent years had become a stage where he sat while imagining how others saw him. He remembered his childhood as his mother had described it, carrying water, watching the moon, being quiet without needing a reason. He realized he could still quote countless sutras, and yet he could not remember the last time he had truly listened to a bird without naming it. The next morning, Master Joan attended the early chanting as usual. His face looked calm, but inside he felt as if he were walking on thin ice. After the chanting ended, he went straight to the abbot. The abbot was an old man with gentle eyes, a teacher who understood the monastery's world of scholarship, but who also knew its dangers. Master Joan bowed deeply and spoke in a low voice. "I need to leave," he said. The abbot studied him for a moment. "Leave? For where I don't know," Master Joan answered, surprising himself with the honesty. "Somewhere quieter, somewhere I can practice without the applause of my own mind." The abbot's gaze softened, as if he had been waiting years for this. You have many students, the abbot said. Many responsibilities. Master Joan swallowed. Yes, he said, and I have used them to protect my pride. Silence stretched between them. Then the abbot nodded once. Go, he said. But do not go to become a different kind of famous. Do not go to collect hardship as another credential. Go to become simple. Master Joan bowed again, lower. He returned to his room and began to pack. Not much. A robe, a bowl, a few essentials. His hands moved without urgency, but his heart felt strangely light, like someone stepping out of a room where the air had grown stale. Before leaving, he paused before his shelves. So many volumes, so many teachings, so many words he had polished until they shone. He reached out and touched the spines almost tenderly. He did not hate them. He simply saw them clearly now. A map can be beautiful. A map can be useful. But a map is not the mountain. 2 days later, Master Joan walked out of the monastery gates at dawn. No crowd gathered to see him off. Only a few monks knew he was leaving, and they bowed politely, confused but respectful. He stepped into the road alone. The city fell behind him. Noise faded. The air changed. As he traveled, he noticed things he had not noticed in years. The smell of wet earth after rain. The way sunlight struck the bark of trees. The sound of his own footsteps. At first, these details felt almost painful, like awakening a sense that had been asleep. He realized how much of his life had been lived inside his head. After several days of walking, he reached a region of hills and forest, where the air was colder and the paths were less traveled. There, nestled among trees, was a small hermitage. It belonged to an old Zen practitioner who was not well known and did not care to be. The man was said to spend most of his days chopping wood, carrying water, and sitting silently in a single-room hut. Master Joan approached, bowed at the doorway, and introduced himself. The old practitioner looked at him for a long moment. "You are the scholar," the man said flatly. Master Joan felt his cheeks warm. "Yes," he admitted. The old man's eyes were not impressed. "What do you want?" Master Joan hesitated, searching for a dignified answer, then remembered the abbot's warning. He let the dignity fall away. "I want to practice," he said, "not as a scholar, as a human being." The old man snorted softly, as if he'd heard many such declarations. "Then you will work," he said. "You will stop polishing words. You will stop feeding the hungry ghost of your reputation." Master Joan bowed. Yes. And so, his new life began. It did not begin with spiritual fireworks. It began with a broom. The old practitioner handed him a broom and pointed to a path covered in leaves. "Sweep," he said. Master Joan swept. The work was simple, almost embarrassing. No one watched. No one praised him. No one asked him questions. And that was exactly the point. In the days that followed, he did chores like a novice. He fetched water. He chopped wood. He scrubbed pots until his fingers ached. At first, he felt a faint humiliation. He had once been addressed as master. He had once been the one who corrected others. Now he was being corrected. Too fast, the old practitioner would say when he chopped wood. Too careless when he washed bowls. Too proud when he sat in meditation with an air of performance. Master Joan tried to respond with patience, but inside his ego writhed. His mind wanted to argue, to explain, to prove he already understood. But each time he reached for words, he remembered his mother's letter. If you have climbed a mountain of words, but you cannot see the flower at your feet. One afternoon, While Master Joan was sweeping near the edge of the forest, he noticed a small wildflower growing in the dirt beside the path. It was fragile, nearly hidden, something most people would step over without seeing. He stopped. For a moment, the old habit rose. What is its name? What does it symbolize? What sutra could I connect this to? Then he caught himself, and he simply looked. The flower did not need a label. It did not need to be turned into teaching. It was enough to be seen. Something in Master Joan loosened in that moment. Something that had been tightly clenched for years. He felt briefly the simple quietness his mother had described. Not a special state, not an achievement, just presence. That evening, as he sat in meditation, the old practitioner spoke from across the room. You see, the man said, words are not the enemy, but the mind that hides behind words is. Master Joan did not answer. He didn't need to. He understood this time not as a concept, but as a taste, like water on the tongue. And so, day by day, his life became smaller. And in becoming smaller, it became real. When Master Joan left the city to trade cleverness for simplicity, he stepped away from a world of titles and public respect. But titles, as you know, do not disappear just because you stop believing in them. In other places, they still ruled lives like invisible ropes, pulling people into fear, pride, and the need to appear righteous. And in one busy town, not far from a trading road, a man named Judge Okada wore his title like armor. He was a local magistrate, respected, strict, and known for a mind that could cut through confusion like a blade. Merchants feared him, not because he was cruel, but because he was precise. He listened carefully. He asked few questions. And when he spoke, the room tended to fall silent. One morning, just after sunrise, a wealthy cloth merchant arrived at the courthouse in a state of panic. His robe was expensive, but his face looked as if someone had stolen the ground from under his feet. He bowed too quickly, too many times, sweat shining at his temples, even in the cool air. Judge Okada, he said, I beg you, please help me. Okada gestured for him to speak. The merchant swallowed hard. 50 bolts of cloth, he said. Gone. Okada's eyes narrowed slightly. Gone, how the merchant wrung his hands. Stolen. From my storehouse. It was locked. I checked it myself last night. And this morning, they're gone. 50. That's... He stopped himself as if the number was too painful to say out loud. Okada did not react with sympathy or alarm. He simply asked, who has access? My workers, the merchant said, voice trembling. A few trusted men. And my family, of course. Okada leaned back slightly. In towns like this, theft could ignite a fire. Not only because of money, but because accusation is a kind of hunger. People want someone to blame. If the thief wasn't found, quickly, suspicion would spread like smoke settling into every corner. It must have been him. It must have been her. It must have been the stranger. The merchant continued, desperation rising. I questioned them, he said. All of them. No one admits it. They swear innocence. Judge Okada, if I cannot recover it, I will be ruined. Okada held the merchant's gaze. You want justice, he said. Yes, the merchant blurted. Yes, of course. Okada nodded once, as if placing the word on the table between them. Then he stood. I will come, he said. The merchant exhaled as if he had been holding his breath for days. They walked together through the town. The streets were already busy, vendors arranging vegetables, apprentices sweeping shop fronts, children darting between stalls. The smell of rice and smoke and damp wood hung in the air. When Judge Okada arrived at the merchant's compound, workers gathered in uneasy clusters. Their faces were tight eyes, flicking from Okada to one another. Some looked offended, some afraid, some quietly angry. Okada asked to see the storehouse. The merchant led him to a heavy wooden door secured with iron. The lock had not been broken. The hinges were intact. The floor inside showed no signs of forced entry. Okada examined everything without expression. Then he walked out into the courtyard where the workers waited. He studied them for a long moment. "You all deny taking the cloth," he said. A chorus of voices rose quickly. "We didn't. Never. Why would we search us?" The merchant stepped forward, eyes burning. "Someone is lying," he snapped. 50 bolts don't vanish into air." Okada lifted a hand. Silence returned, uneasy and brittle. Okada's gaze moved slowly across the faces. In his mind, he could already see the problem. If he accused one person without proof, he might ruin an innocent life. If he searched everyone, he might turn honest people into enemies. If he threatened, he might extract false confessions born from fear. And still, the cloth was gone. Okada turned and walked out of the compound without another word. The merchant hurried after him, panicked again. "Judge Okada, where are you going? What will you do?" Okada did not answer immediately. He walked through the town as if following a thread only he could see. At last, he stopped in front of a small temple near the market. It was not a grand temple. It was the kind of place people passed daily without noticing simple gate stone steps, a few wind-worn banners, and just inside the entrance stood a stone statue of the Buddha. The statue was old, darkened by rain and time. The face was calm eyes, half closed as if looking inward. The stone hands rested in a gesture of stillness. Okada faced the statue for a moment. Then he turned to the merchant and to the small crowd that had begun to gather curious townspeople who sensed drama like animals sense lightning. Okada's voice was even formal and carried clearly. "Arrest the Buddha," he said. The merchant stared at him. What he whispered, certain he had misheard. Okada repeated it, unblinking. "Arrest this stone Buddha," he said. "Bring it to the courthouse." A ripple moved through the crowd. Some people laughed nervously. Some looked offended. Some crossed themselves or muttered prayers, uneasy at the thought. The merchant's face flushed red with confusion and anger. "Judge Okada," he said, struggling to keep his voice respectful. "This is madness. A statue cannot steal cloth." Okada looked at him calmly. "Did I say it stole the cloth?" he asked. The merchant opened his mouth, then closed it. Okada continued. "You came to me asking for justice," he said. "Justice requires a mind that is not blinded by rage. But right now, this town is already burning with suspicion. If I begin searching and accusing without proof, we will create more harm than the theft itself." He turned back to the statue. "This Buddha," he said, "stands here watched by everyone, respected by everyone. If I order its arrest, the whole town will hear. And when the whole town hears, the thief will also hear." The crowd quieted, listening now. Okada's expression remained unreadable, but his strategy was taking shape in the air, like a shadow becoming clear. "Bring it," he said again. Reluctantly, the merchant signaled to a few men. They approached the statue as if touching it might bring bad luck. With effort, they lifted it onto a wooden cart. People stepped aside, murmuring, some scandalized, some fascinated. As the cart rolled through the marketplace toward the courthouse, more and more townspeople followed, drawn by the absurdity. "Judge Okada has gone insane," someone whispered. "He's mocking the Buddha," another muttered. "Maybe he's making a point," someone else said, uncertain. Okada walked ahead, calm as ever. He knew something simple about the human mind. If you cannot catch someone by force, sometimes you catch them by turning their own conscience into a trap. At the courthouse, the stone Buddha was placed in the center of the yard like a prisoner. Okada stood before the gathered crowd. And then, in a voice that was neither angry nor playful, only official, he announced a punishment that made everyone freeze. By midday, the courtyard of the courthouse was packed. People came in waves the way townspeople always do when something breaks the routine. They stood shoulder to shoulder beneath the winter-bright sky, squinting at the strange sight in the center of the yard, an old stone Buddha sitting on a wooden cart like a captured criminal. Some were amused, some were offended, some were simply hungry for a story. The cloth merchant stood near the front, his face tight with embarrassment and anger. He kept glancing at Judge Okada as if expecting him to suddenly laugh and admit it was all a joke. But Okada did not laugh. He stood on the steps of the courthouse with the stillness of someone who had already decided what needed to happen. A few officials stood behind him, stiff and uncertain. Even they did not understand what they were participating in. When the murmuring reached a fever pitch, Okada lifted his hand. The sound dropped. Only then did he speak. "This Buddha," he said, gesturing to the statue, "has been accused." A low ripple ran through the crowd, half laughter, half discomfort. Okada's eyes moved across their faces, calm and measuring. "In this town," he continued, "a man came to me this morning. 50 bolts of cloth have vanished. The storehouse was locked. No door was broken. No thief was seen." The merchant's jaw clenched. Okada let the fact settle. Because the cloth was taken without force, he said the thief is not a stranger from the road. The thief is someone who belongs close enough to move unseen. Several people shifted uncomfortably. Okada raised his voice slightly, just enough to reach those at the back. "Such theft poisons a town," he said. "It makes neighbors suspicious. It makes honest men suffer under accusation. And it makes the guilty hide behind the confusion they create." He paused. Then he delivered his sentence. "As punishment," Okada said, "this Buddha will be fined." A few people blinked, not sure whether to laugh. Okada continued without changing expression. "Each household in this town will contribute 1 bolt of cloth," he said. "By tomorrow morning, it will be delivered here. If you refuse, you will be treated as one who protects the thief." A shock moved through the crowd like a gust of wind. Voices rose instantly. "That's unfair. Why should we pay? We didn't steal anything. This is madness." The merchant stared at Okada, horrified. "Judge Okada," he hissed under his breath, "you're punishing everyone for what one person did." Okada did not respond to the merchant's outrage. He was watching the crowd, because crowds, when they feel threatened, reveal themselves. Angry faces turned toward the officials. Hands waved. Accusations flew sideways, people already beginning to blame each other for what they might have to pay. Okada waited, letting their noise exhaust itself. When the shouting thinned into scattered complaints, he spoke again quietly, but with authority. If you are innocent, he said, one bolt is a small price to restore trust. He turned his head slightly, letting his gaze sweep the gathering. If you are guilty, he added, then one bolt is not enough to wash what you have done. That line landed differently. The crowd quieted, not from agreement, but from the uneasy sensation that Okada's eyes were not simply looking at everyone. They were looking through everyone. Okada stepped down from the courthouse steps and walked slowly among them, his hands folded behind his back. He stopped near the merchant's workers, then near the merchant's family members, then near unrelated townspeople, as if the boundary between suspects and bystanders did not matter. Because it didn't. He wasn't searching pockets. He was pressing on conscience. He returned to the steps. The cloth will be received here tomorrow morning, he said. Each contribution will be recorded. You may go. The crowd dispersed, muttering, but the town did not return to normal. All afternoon, conversation buzzed like flies. Some argued the judge had crossed a line. Some feared divine punishment for dragging a Buddha into the courthouse. Some admired Okada's boldness. Some quietly felt the pressure in their chest grow heavier. That night, in one modest home near the edge of town, a man sat alone with a lamp burning low. He was not the merchant, not a worker, not a famous figure, just an ordinary townsman, someone who blended into crowds. His hands were trembling, because under the floorboards of his storage shed, wrapped tightly in cloth, were several of the missing bolts. He had taken them slowly, over time, thinking no one would notice. A bolt here, a bolt there. The merchant was rich. The town was busy. He had told himself 100 soft lies to make the theft feel small. But now, Judge Okada had done something unbearable. He had pulled the theft out of the shadows and put it under the eyes of the entire town. Tomorrow, everyone would bring one bolt. And if the thief brought only one bolt, he would still have the stolen one's hidden proof of his guilt, sitting like a snake beneath his floor. If he brought none, suspicion might fall on him for refusing. If he tried to flee, the town would notice. The trap was not made of ropes or guards. It was made of shame. The man sat with his head in his hands for a long time. Then before dawn, he made a decision. He wrapped the stolen bolts again carefully, almost tenderly, as if trying to undo the harm by treating the cloth with respect. He lifted the bundle, heavier than it should have been, and walked through the cold streets toward the courthouse. The sky was still dark. Only a few lanterns flickered. When he arrived, an official was there with a ledger ready to record contributions. The thief kept his head down and set the bundle on the ground. How many, the official asked. The man's voice came out thin. More than one, he whispered. The official frowned, counted the bolts, and his eyes widened. Word traveled quickly. By the time the sun rose, Judge Okada was already standing in the courtyard, watching the pile grow. Households arrived with their single bolts grumbling. Some threw them down with resentment. Some bowed apologetically to the statue, as if trying to avoid spiritual offense. Then the officials brought the bundle that did not match the others. Okada did not smile. He simply looked at the extra cloth quiet proof rising from the town's own darkness. He turned to the merchant. "Count what has been returned," Okada said. The merchant's hands shook as he did. One by one, the missing bolts were recovered. Not by force, not by torture, not by naming suspects in public, but by creating a mirror so clear the guilty could no longer bear to look away. When the thief was finally identified, Okada did not parade him through the streets. He did not turn it into spectacle. He dealt with it firmly, privately, as law demanded. And when it was over, he walked back to the stone Buddha, sitting patiently on the cart. He bowed, not theatrically, not to appease the crowd, but as if acknowledging something simple. Sometimes justice does not come from punishing with anger. Sometimes it comes from seeing human nature clearly and letting that clarity do the work. Not long after Judge Okada's strange courthouse spectacle, the town settled back into its habits. The cloth merchant recovered what was taken. The workers returned to their routines. The gossip found new fuel, as gossip always does. And the stone Buddha was rolled back to the small temple near the market, placed again in its familiar spot. By the gate, silent, weather-worn, and unmoving. Yet something had shifted. Even the people who had mocked Okada's arrest could not entirely forget how easily suspicion had spread, how quickly they had been willing to point fingers. For a while they spoke more carefully. They looked at their neighbors with a little less certainty. But human beings have short memories. Soon, the market grew loud again. Merchants shouted prices. Children chased each other between stalls. The temple became once more a background feature, something to pass without noticing. Until one morning, when a man came running into the marketplace, breathless and scandalized. "Come see," he cried. "Someone has defiled the Buddha." Heads turned. People followed. They moved in a growing stream toward the small temple gate, where the stone statue sat, as it always had. And when they arrived, a gasp moved through the crowd. The Buddha's face was unchanged, still calm, still half smiling, with that inward peace carved into stone. But the nose had been painted black, not lightly, not like a smudge from soot. It was deliberately dark, almost comical, like a mask slapped onto something sacred. A few women covered their mouths. An older man muttered a prayer under his breath. Someone shouted, "Who would do this?" The temple caretaker appeared pale with anger. "This is blasphemy," he said. "Someone has mocked the Buddha." Within minutes, the town's old hunger returned. The hunger to find an offender. The hunger to punish. The hunger to restore moral order by tearing someone down. "Search the streets," a merchant barked. "Question the children," another insisted. "It must be the drunkards," someone said, convinced. "No," said another, "it must be someone who hates the temple." The caretaker sent a runner to the local guards. By midday, a small patrol was moving through the town, questioning people, scanning faces, looking for any sign of guilt. And because the act was so strange, everyone had a theory. Some insisted it was a prank. Some insisted it was a sign of spiritual decay. Some insisted it was the work of outsiders. But the truth, as it often does, was quieter than the theories. The one who painted the nose was not an outsider. He was a man named Toru, a simple townsman, middle-aged with rough hands and a face that rarely drew attention. He worked near the market, doing small labor for merchants, lifting crates, repairing broken boards, carrying loads. He was the kind of man people saw without really seeing. And yet Toru had noticed something others hadn't. Over the last few weeks, strange visitors had come to town. Men with tidy robes and sharp eyes speaking politely to temple staff. asking careful questions. They praised the statue's antique value. They examined the stone, tapped it lightly, murmured among themselves. Most people didn't think much of it, but Toru had overheard the whispers. These men were collectors, wealthy men who bought sacred artifacts like decorations for private gardens. Toru had even heard one of them say with a smile, "Too clean to be trusted. Such a statue would look perfect in a certain lord's estate." A chill had moved through Toru, then not because he was especially religious, but because something in him felt offended by the idea. The Buddha did not belong to a lord. It belonged to the town. It belonged to every tired worker who passed the gate and felt their breath slow for half a second. It belonged to every old woman who bowed before it and whispered a prayer for her children. It belonged to the ordinary lives that needed ordinary reminders. And Toru understood a brutal truth about the world. When something is seen as valuable, someone will try to take it. So Toru formed a plan that was in its own way both foolish and brilliant. If collectors wanted the statue because it was beautiful and old and pure, then perhaps making it ugly, making it seem damaged or defaced, would protect it. So late one night, Toru waited until the streets were empty. He carried a small pot of black paint and a rag. His heart pounded, not because he felt he was committing a holy act, but because he knew how people would interpret it. He knew he would look like a criminal. Still, he approached the statue. Under moonlight, the Buddha's face looked even more serene, as if nothing in the human world could touch it. Toru hesitated. Then he painted the nose, a thick, dark layer. He stepped back, grimaced at how ridiculous it looked, and whispered almost apologetically, as if speaking to the stone, "Forgive me. Better shame than theft." Then he fled into the night. By morning, the town was in uproar, and by afternoon, Toru was caught. Not because he was careless, but because he didn't run far. He stayed in town, went to work, kept his head down. But a child had seen him late at night carrying something in his hands, and children like wind carry stories quickly. The guards found him and dragged him to the courthouse. There, in front of the caretaker and a handful of outraged townspeople, Toru stood with his hands bound. "Why did you do it?" the caretaker demanded. "Why would you insult the Buddha?" Toru's mouth went dry. He looked around at the angry faces, and in that moment, he realized something bitter. If he told them the truth, many would still hate him, because the truth would not feel as satisfying as outrage. Still, he spoke. "I did it to protect it," he said. The caretaker frowned. "Protect it?" Toru nodded, swallowing. "You didn't see them," he said. "The men who came asking about it. They don't come to bow. They come to buy. And if they cannot buy, they will find another way," the crowd murmured. Toru's voice grew steadier, not because he was confident, but because he was tired of being misunderstood. "This statue is too beautiful," he said. "Too clean, too perfect. If you make it look damaged, maybe they won't want it. Maybe they'll leave it here, where it belongs." Someone scoffed. "So you think painting it is reverence?" Toru lifted his bound hands, slightly helpless. "I didn't paint its eyes," he said quietly. "I didn't paint its mouth. I painted the nose so it would look foolish to thieves." The caretaker stared at him, caught between fury and confusion, because Toru's act looked like disrespect, and yet his reason, if true, came from a kind of care. Not elegant care, not doctrinal care, but ordinary desperate care, the kind that doesn't know how to be polished. In the end, the guards did not know what to do with him. They could punish him for defacing the statue, and many wanted that. But as the story spread, something else spread too. A few people began to notice the collectors again, to watch them, to refuse their polite questions, to guard the temple gate more carefully. And in the weeks that followed, those visitors stopped coming, whether because they lost interest or because the town's eyes had become sharper, no one could say. The Buddha remained by the gate, nose still dark for a while, looking absurd and serene at once. And if you stood there long enough, you could feel the paradox at the heart of the story. Sometimes, a person's devotion does not look like devotion. Sometimes reverence wears the face of clumsiness. Sometimes protecting what is sacred means risking your own reputation. And sometimes the deepest respect is not the kind that looks beautiful, but the kind that keeps something precious from being carried away. After the matter of the black-nosed Buddha, people in the town argued for days. Some insisted Toru should have been punished harshly. Others defended him, saying his heart had been in the right place, even if his hands had made a mess of it. The temple caretaker scrubbed at the paint until it faded to a dull stain, and the statue returned slowly to its ordinary quiet. But beneath the debate, a quieter question lingered. What is reverence really? Is it perfect behavior? Is it correct belief? Is it the proper word said at the proper time? Or is it something deeper? Something that can't always be explained without shrinking it? That question leads naturally to an older story, older than towns and magistrates, older than cedar forests and stone statues. A story from the Buddha himself. It is said that one day, the Buddha gathered his disciples on a hillside. The day was clear. The air was warm. The world felt simple in that way it sometimes does, when the mind stops adding extra layers. The monks sat in rows, their robes spread neatly around them, their faces turned toward the teacher. They expected a sermon. They expected words, teaching shaped into language, like water poured into a bowl. The Buddha had spoken to them many times before. He had explained suffering and its causes. He had described the path. He had taught discipline, compassion, wisdom, and the careful work of freeing the mind. So the disciples waited attentive and ready. But the Buddha did not begin to speak. Instead, he reached down to the ground beside him and picked up a single flower. In some tellings, it is a lotus. In others, a simple wild blossom, the kind that grows without effort, without ambition, without any need to be noticed. He held the flower up between his fingers, and he said nothing. At first, the monks assumed this was only a pause. Perhaps he was gathering his thoughts. Perhaps he was waiting for the right moment, the right opening. But the silence continued. The Buddha simply held the flower. The disciples looked at one another confused. Some tried to interpret the gesture. Is it a symbol of purity? Is it a lesson on impermanence? Is it a metaphor for the awakened mind? They searched their memory of teachings, like scholars, reaching for familiar tools. But the Buddha did not offer a key. He did not explain. He did not confirm anyone's interpretation. He simply held the flower as if the flower itself were enough. Minutes passed. The hillside was quiet, except for the soft sounds of wind moving through grass. A bird called somewhere in the distance. And among the many faces staring at the Buddha, some puzzled, some frustrated, some intensely focused, there was one disciple who did not look strained. His name was Mahakashyapa. He was not the most talkative disciple and not the most famous for debate. He was known for discipline, for simplicity, for a kind of calm seriousness. As he watched the Buddha hold the flower, something in him relaxed, not into sleepiness, into understanding. And then, almost imperceptibly, Mahakashyapa smiled. It was not a wide grin, not a performance. It was the smallest movement, like a candle flame leaning toward warmth. The Buddha saw it. And the Buddha's face softened as if he had been waiting for that single sign. Only then did he speak. "I have the true Dharma eye," the Buddha said, the wondrous mind of nirvana, the subtle teaching beyond words. He looked toward Mahakashyapa. "I entrust it to you." On the hillside, the other disciples were stunned, because nothing special had happened in the way they expected. No thunder, no elaborate explanation, no careful logical structure they could write down and repeat later. And yet something had been transmitted, not through language, through direct seeing. The flower held in the Buddha's fingers was not merely a symbol, it was the point itself. The teaching was not hidden behind it. The teaching was the way it simply was alive, fragile, complete, not needing commentary. For most minds, this is unbearable, because the mind is addicted to adding. It wants to name. It wants to categorize. It wants to build a structure and call it understanding. But Zen, at its sharpest edge, asks you to drop the extra layer, to meet reality without the constant translation, to see the flower as a flower, to hear the wind as wind, to feel breath as breath, and to recognize that what you are searching for may not be a thing you can grasp with thoughts. It may be a way of being present. The story of the flower sermon is often called the birth of Zen's wordless transmission. Not because Zen rejects words completely, words can be helpful, like a finger pointing, but because Zen insists that the finger is not the moon. And because sometimes the most compassionate teaching is not an explanation, but an invitation to stop chasing meaning and simply see. If you listen closely, you may notice how this story echoes the ones before it. Master Harun did not defend himself with words. He simply met what arrived moment by moment. Renji learned that awakening is not separate from how you hold a bucket. Master Baishu wrote to Akio that the mind is not born and does not die, truth offered without decoration. Master Joen left his mountain of words to look at a flower at his feet. And Toru, in his clumsy way, acted from care that did not know how to present itself beautifully. In each case, something essential was being pointed to. The deepest truth is not always something you can argue. Sometimes it is something you can only recognize, like Mahakashyapa's smile. A small, quiet sign that the mind has stopped reaching outward and has finally met what is here. After the flower sermon, it becomes hard to take titles too seriously, because once you taste even a hint of wordless truth, once you sense that the heart of practice does not depend on performance, then the social costumes we wear start to look thinner. Not meaningless perhaps, but lighter, less solid. And yet in ordinary life, titles still carry immense weight. They open doors. They close mouths. They can make one person feel large and another feel small. So it is no surprise that one of Zen's simplest stories cuts directly into that habit. It takes place in a province where power was not abstract, but very real, where a single decision from the government could change the fate of a village. In that province lived an official named Governor Takamori. Takamori was not a foolish man. He was educated, disciplined, and accustomed to being obeyed. People bowed when he passed. Merchants offered gifts. Monks and scholars spoke carefully in his presence, measuring each word as if it might be weighed later. And like many men who rise high, Takamori carried inside him a subtle hunger. Not the hunger for food, the hunger for recognition. Even when he was alone, his mind rehearsed his importance. His title sat inside him like a throne. One day, Takamori decided to visit a well-known Zen teacher in the region, Master Keishu. Keishu was not famous for polite flattery. He was known for a sharp clarity that made powerful people uncomfortable. Still, Takamori felt confident. He imagined the visit as a kind of public gesture, a governor receiving wisdom from a holy man, two respected figures meeting with mutual admiration. Before leaving, Takamori prepared a formal calling card. In that time, an introduction mattered. A visitor's card would be presented at the gate, and it would announce not only the person's name, but the position that made them worthy of attention. Takamori's card was carefully written. Governor Takamori of the province. He arrived at Keishu's temple with a small escort. The temple was modest, clean steps, simple wooden buildings, the scent of pine and incense. A few monks moved quietly in the courtyard, carrying water or sweeping leaves. Takamori felt a small irritation at the simplicity, as if the world should look grander when he entered it. At the gate, he handed his card to a monk and waited. He expected to be received quickly. Instead, he waited longer than usual. The monk returned at last and bowed. "Please wait," the monk said, politely. Wait. For a governor, that word often felt like an insult. Still, Takamori held his posture, his expression controlled. He told himself it was part of the temple's discipline. After a time, the monk returned again. He held the calling card in both hands, and he handed it back. Takamori frowned. "What is this?" The monk's face remained calm. Master Keishu says the monk replied that he does not meet governors. For a moment, Takamori thought he had misheard. "What?" The monk repeated it gently but clearly. "He does not meet governors," he said. "If you wish to meet him, please come as yourself." Heat rose in Takamori's chest. It was not just anger, it was the shock of encountering a boundary his title could not push through. He felt the eyes of his escort behind him. He imagined the story spreading. The governor was refused by a monk. Pride flared. The mind searched for a way to regain control. He wanted to storm away. He wanted to demand respect. But something else rose to curiosity. What kind of man refuses a Governor? Takamori looked down at his card. The ink was clean. The title was bold. And suddenly, with a strange clarity, he saw how much of his life depended on those words. He pulled out a brush, and right there at the gate, he scratched out the title. He wrote a new card. Takamori. Just the name. Nothing else. He handed it to the monk again. The monk bowed and disappeared into the temple. This time, the wait was shorter. Soon, Takamori was led through a corridor into a small room. Master Keishu was seated there drinking tea. He was an older man with a plain face and eyes that were neither soft nor harsh, simply awake. There was no ceremony in his posture, no performance of holiness. He looked up as Takamori entered. For a moment, Takamori felt the old reflex, I am important. I am the governor. But the scratched-out card was still fresh in his hand, like a wound. He bowed carefully, as any visitor would. Keishu returned the bow. Welcome, Keishu said, as if greeting a neighbor. Takamori hesitated. He had prepared questions, statements, polite introductions. But in that simple welcome, without title, without special treatment, something in him felt exposed. Keishu poured tea into a cup and slid it across the floor. Takamori accepted it. The tea was ordinary. That ordinariness was the lesson. Keishu looked at him and said, "Now you may speak." Takamori swallowed. He could have asked about governance ethics, the proper way to rule the use of power. He could have tried to collect wisdom the way a powerful man collects rare objects. Instead, what came out was simpler. Why? Takamori asked quietly. Did you refuse to see me? Keishu's eyes did not change. Because you did not come, he said. Takamori blinked. I did come. Keishu shook his head slightly. A governor came, he said. A position came. A mask came. Keishu lifted the cup a little, as if weighing it. But a human being did not come. The words landed cleanly. Not insulting, not dramatic, just true. Takamori felt his throat tighten, not with anger, but with something that felt dangerously close to humility. Keishu continued. When you carry a title into a room, he said, everyone meets the title. They do not meet you. They fear you, flatter you, or bargain with you, but they do not meet your real face. Takamori's fingers tightened around the cup. Keishu's gaze remained steady. So I refuse to meet a governor, he said. Not because I hate governors, but because I am not interested in speaking to armor. Silence spread between them. Outside, a bamboo fountain clicked softly as it filled and emptied. Takamori looked down at his hands. For the first time in a long time, he saw himself not as an official, but as a man. A man who could be afraid. A man who could die. A man who did not actually own the world he commanded. Keishu watched him without pity. Then, in a quieter voice, he said, when you go back, govern as a person, not as an idea. Takamori nodded slowly. He did not feel enlightened. He felt reduced. And strangely, that reduction felt like relief. Because it is exhausting to carry a title everywhere, even in your own mind. When Takamori finally stood to leave, he bowed again. Keishu returned the bow, the same as before. No more, no less. As Takamori walked back through the courtyard, monks continued sweeping and carrying water. No one stared. No one treated him like a governor. He was simply a man moving through a temple. And as he stepped out through the gate, the winter air touched his face like clean water. For a moment, he felt what Zen keeps pointing toward. Remove the labels, and the world becomes immediate again. Not smaller, just real. Governor Takamori left Master Keishu with something he had not expected. Not advice about politics. Not a doctrine he could repeat to impress others. Just the strange, unsettling feeling of having his title peeled off like armor removed in public. And as he walked back into the world, he carried a quiet question with him. If I am not my position, what am I Zen? Of course, has many ways of answering that question. Sometimes it answers with silence. Sometimes with a flower held in the air. Sometimes by scratching out a title until only a name remains. And sometimes it answers in the least elegant place imaginable, a kitchen. Because if awakening is real, it does not appear only in temples or meditation halls. It appears where steam rises from pots, where hands scrub bowls, where mistakes happen, where responsibility is unavoidable. There was a monastery known for its strict discipline where a teacher named Master Banrei lived. Banrei was revered not because he spoke beautifully, but because his presence was unwavering. People said that being near him felt like standing beside a cliff. There was no room for pretending. He did not tolerate laziness in practice, but he was not cruel. He simply demanded sincerity. In that monastery, the kitchen was run by a man named Ryoan. Ryoan was the Tenzo, the head cook. In Zen monasteries, the Tenzo's role is not considered lesser than the role of a teacher. In fact, it is often considered one of the most important positions because feeding the community is not separate from practice. How you wash rice, how you cut vegetables, how you handle fire, these are all mirrors of the mind. Ryoan took his work seriously. He rose earlier than most. He checked supplies, oversaw preparation, and watched the kitchen like a person watching a sacred ritual. He hated waste. He hated carelessness. And he hated anything that might disturb the calm rhythm of the monastery. One day, the monastery prepared a meal that was meant to be simple and nourishing. Soup rice, pickled vegetables. The day was cold enough that the soup would feel like mercy. The kitchen was busy. Steam clouded the air. Knives tapped against wood. Water ran into basins. Ryoan moved through it all with practiced precision. Then, in the middle of the rush, something happened. No one saw exactly when it occurred. Perhaps a pot was left uncovered for a moment. Perhaps a window was open. Perhaps something small crawled where it should not have. When the soup was ladled into bowls and carried into the dining hall, the monks sat down in neat rows as they always did and began to eat in silence. At first, nothing seemed wrong, until a monk halfway down the line froze. He stared into his bowl. Then very slowly, he set his chopsticks down. Across the hall, someone else made a small startled sound. A whisper moved quiet, restrained, but unmistakable. Ryan, still in the kitchen doorway, noticed the disruption. His stomach tightened. In a monastery, even a small disturbance can feel enormous. Not because monks are fragile, but because the whole structure is built on mindfulness. When something breaks the rhythm, it reveals where attention has drifted. Ryan stepped into the hall, his face composed, though his heart was already pounding. He walked to the monk who had stopped eating. The monk tilted his bowl slightly. Inside the soup, floating near the surface, half submerged, unmistakable, was a small lizard. The monk's expression was not dramatic. He was simply done. Ryoan's mind flashed white. For a moment, he felt a burst of fear so sharp it was almost anger. Not fear of the lizard, fear of disgrace. Fear that Master Banrei would hear. Fear that his reputation as a careful Tenzo would collapse in an instant. He forced his face to remain neutral. He bowed slightly to the monk and took the bowl with both hands. He carried it back toward the kitchen, the lizard still floating there like an accusation. As he walked, his thoughts raced. How did this happen? Who was careless? Will they blame me? What will Master Banrei say? Then he reached the kitchen, and there, sitting at a small table near the stove, was Master Banrei. He had not been eating in the hall. Sometimes he ate separately. Sometimes he observed. Sometimes he appeared where no one expected him. His eyes lifted. He saw the bowl in Ryoan's hands. He saw the tension in Ryoan's posture. He did not ask questions. He did not need to. Ryoan approached slowly and placed the bowl in front of him, then bowed deeply. Master Ryon said, voice tight. There has been an issue. Banrei looked into the bowl. He saw the lizard. His expression did not change, not into disgust, not into anger. He looked back at Ryon. For a long moment, he said nothing. And in that silence, Ryon felt every ounce of his shame gather in his chest. He began to speak quickly, trying to explain, trying to soften the blow. It must have happened when he started. Banrei lifted a hand. Not harshly, just enough to stop the flood of excuses before it became a shelter. Then Banrei did something Ryon did not expect. He picked up the bowl, he took his chopsticks, and he ate. Not theatrically, not with bravado. He simply ate the soup as if it were ordinary soup. When he reached the lizard, he did not recoil. He ate that too. Ryon felt as if the ground had fallen away beneath him. Master, he blurted, horrified. Banrei continued eating unhurried. The kitchen seemed to hold its breath. When Banrei finished, he set the bowl down. Only then did he look at Ryon again, and he said calmly, "Now, the matter is closed." Ryon stared at him, unable to speak. Banrei's voice remained steady. "You were about to explain," he said. "To blame a window, a pot, a moment of carelessness. To protect your image as a good Tenzo." Ryon's face burned. Banrei continued, "But the monastery has been served this soup. The fact has already happened. The only question is what you will do now." Ryon swallowed hard. "I will replace it," he whispered. "I will." Banrei shook his head slightly. "Replace it?" "Yes," he said. "Clean the pots?" "Yes." "But do not leave behind a trail of blame and panic. Do not turn one mistake into many sufferings." He tapped the empty bowl lightly with his finger. "When you encounter what you do not want," he said, "meet it completely. Do not add a second story. Do not spread fear. Do not spread shame." Ryon felt tears pricking behind his eyes. Not from sadness, but from the shock of being seen so clearly. Banrei's gaze softened, just a fraction. In Zen, he said responsibility is not a punishment. It is a return to reality. Ryon bowed again, deeper than before. He understood then that Banrei had not eaten the lizard to show off. He had eaten it to protect the community from the poison of prolonged drama, to close the loop, to absorb what needed to be absorbed so that the monastery could return to practice. And Ryon, who had been so concerned with being seen as careful, finally tasted a different kind of lesson. True practice is not spotless perfection. True practice is the courage to meet what happens and not let your mind leak harm into the world. That day, Ryon cleaned the kitchen more carefully than ever, but more importantly, he cleaned something inside himself. The need to defend, the need to explain, the habit of turning every mistake into a story about me. Because Master Banrei had shown him something fierce and simple. Sometimes the most compassionate act is not to argue about the mess, but to end it completely right where it is. After the day of the lizard soup, the monastery felt strangely clean. Not just the kitchen, though Ryon scrubbed every pot until it shone, but the atmosphere itself. The usual ripples of gossip and opinion had been swallowed before they could spread. Master Banrei's simple act had closed the matter like a door gently latched. And yet, for the younger monks watching from the edges, something lingered. A question. If practice is real, if Zen reaches into kitchens and mistakes and shame, then where does it end? Is there any moment that is not practice? A novice named Sora carried that question like a pebble in his shoe, Sora was devoted, sincere, and easily troubled by his own imperfections. He watched his mind constantly, as if trying to catch it in the act of drifting. He pushed himself hard, believing that effort was the only way to become worthy of awakening. He was the kind of monk who would sit longer than required, knees burning, refusing to shift even when pain made him dizzy. He would volunteer for extra chores not from joy, but from a faint anxiety that if he stopped, something inside him would collapse. The elders respected his discipline, but Master Narin, an older Zen teacher living in the same monastery, watched him with a different kind of attention. Master Narin was not dramatic. He was known for plainness. When he spoke, it was often with a simplicity that frustrated clever minds. He did not decorate teachings. He did not reward strain. He valued something quieter, naturalness. One evening, after the last work period, Sora approached Master Narin's room. The corridor was dim, lit by a few lanterns that cast warm shadows on the wooden walls. The monastery had begun to settle into night. Somewhere a bell sounded softly. Sora bowed at the doorway. "Master," he said, "may I ask a question?" Master Narin looked up from his tea. "Yes," he said. Sora entered and sat respectfully. For a moment he hesitated, as if the question felt almost foolish on his tongue. But it had been haunting him for days, growing louder each time he tried to fall asleep. He finally spoke. "Master Sora said we are told to practice at all times, to be mindful in everything, to keep the mind from wandering." Master Narin nodded slightly, as if hearing something familiar. Sora continued his earnestness, tightening his voice. "But when we sleep, what then? How do we practice while sleeping?" The question hung in the air. Sora expected a teaching. Perhaps an instruction: sleep lightly, remain aware, train yourself to stay mindful even in dreams. He expected a method. Master Narin, however, did not rush to answer. He took a slow sip of tea. Then he asked, "When you sleep, what do you do?" Sora blinked. "I sleep." Master Narin nodded. "And when you eat, I eat. And when you walk, I walk." Sora felt a flicker of irritation. The answer sounded too obvious. He was asking about something deeper. "Yes," Sora said, "but while sleeping the mind is unconscious. How can it be practice? I feel I lose it. I feel I fail." Master Narin set his cup down gently. "Fail," he repeated. Sora's cheeks warmed. "Yes, Master. Because the mind wanders. Because I'm not aware. Because I cannot hold mindfulness through sleep." Master Narin looked at him for a long moment. His gaze was not judging. It was almost curious, like watching someone try to carry water in a basket and wondering when they will notice the holes. Then Master Narin said, "Show me how you sleep." Sora stared confused. "Master, tonight." Master Narin said calmly, "You will sleep in the hall outside my room. I will wake you when you fall asleep." Sora's heart jumped. Part of him felt honored, like he had been given special training. Another part felt anxious, already planning how to do it correctly. He bowed quickly. "Yes, Master." That night, Sora lay down on a mat in the hall. The wooden floor was hard beneath him. The air was cool. He could hear distant wind and occasional creaks in the monastery's bones. He closed his eyes and immediately tried to practice. He watched his breath intensely. He tried to keep awareness sharp. He tried to hold his mind like a guard at a gate. Minutes passed. His body grew heavy. Thoughts rose about his training, about tomorrow, about whether Master Narin would be impressed. Sora tightened his focus as if gripping a rope. Then slowly, he drifted, not into peaceful rest, into strained half-sleep. At some point, the door to Master Naren's room opened softly. Light spilled onto the hall floor. Footsteps approached. Sora's eyes snapped open. Master Naren stood above him. "You were sleeping," Master Naren said. Sora sat up quickly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Master." Master Naren raised a hand. "Go back to sleep." Sora lay down again, cheeks burning. This time he tried even harder. He held the breath like a task. He tried to remain aware of every sensation. He resisted the pull of sleep, as if it were an enemy. Again, he drifted. Again, footsteps. Again, Master Naren's voice. "You were sleeping." Sora's frustration grew. By the third time, his body was exhausted, but his mind was tense as wire. He felt like he was failing at the simplest human act. When Master Naren woke him again, Sora finally blurted, "Master, I can't do it. I can't stay mindful through sleep." Master Naren looked at him steadily. "Of course you can't," he said. Sora's eyes widened. The words landed like both relief and insult. Master Naren continued, "Sleep is not a place for effort." Sora swallowed. "Then what is the teaching?" Master Naren's voice was calm. "The teaching," he said, "is that you are trying to turn everything into a performance. You are trying to hold the mind like a fist." Sora's throat tightened. Master Naren crouched slightly, so his face was closer, his tone gentler. "You want to practice," he said, "but you are practicing against life, against the natural movement of the body, against the simple truth that sleep is sleep." Sora stared at him, confused but listening. Master Naren stood again and said, "Tomorrow you will ask the question again, but first sleep, truly sleep." Sora lay back down, but now his mind was racing in a different way. If effort cannot hold mindfulness through sleep, then what does practice at all times actually mean? What is practice when there is no control? In the darkness, Sora listened to his own breath. Inhale, exhale, and somewhere inside, something began to loosen. Not fully, not yet, but enough that sleep finally arrived like a wave rather than a battle. And as Sora drifted, the monastery grew quiet again. But the lesson had only begun, because Master Naren was not teaching him how to stay awake while sleeping. He was teaching him something far more difficult: how to stop forcing life and let practice become natural. By morning, Sora's body felt heavy. Not the clean heaviness of deep rest, but the dull weight of a night spent struggling, half waking, half sleeping, constantly yanked back into consciousness by Master Naren's quiet footsteps and simpler words. He rose before dawn, as usual, washed his face, and joined the others for chanting. But even as his voice joined the rhythm of the hall, his mind kept circling the same point. Sleep is not a place for effort. He didn't like that. Or rather, a part of him didn't. Because effort was what he trusted. Effort was how he measured himself. Effort was how he tried to prove he was worthy of the path. Without effort, he feared he would dissolve into laziness, into ordinary weakness. After morning work, he approached Master Naren again. The older teacher was in the courtyard, trimming dead leaves from a shrub, as calmly as if nothing important were happening, which in his view was precisely the point. Sora bowed low. "Master," he said about last night. Master Naren did not look up right away. He clipped a leaf, set it aside, and only then turned towards Sora. "Yes," he said. Sora chose his words carefully. "You told me to ask again," Sora said. "So I will. How do I practice while sleeping?" Master Narin studied him for a moment. Then, without any dramatic pause, he said the simplest thing imaginable. "When you sleep," he said, "sleep." Sora blinked. "Master, that's what I do, but I can't stay mindful. I can't." Master Narin raised a hand, not to cut him off harshly, but to stop him from drowning in his own concepts. "You are dividing," Master Narin said. "Dividing what life?" Master Narin replied. "You divide it into practice and not practice. You divide it into success and failure. You divide it into moments you can control and moments you cannot." Sora felt his chest tighten. Isn't that the point of discipline? To keep awareness, Master Narin's expression remained neutral, but his voice sharpened slightly, not in anger, but in clarity. "Awareness is not a clenched fist," he said. "You keep trying to grip the mind until it behaves. That is not Zen. That is violence with a polite name." The words stung. Sora's cheeks warmed. Master Narin softened his tone again. "Tell me," he said, "when you were a child, did you try to practice your breathing while you slept?" Sora hesitated. "No." "And did you die because you weren't mindful?" Sora's lips parted. He had no answer. Master Narin nodded once. "Your body knows how to sleep," he said. "Your mind knows how to dream. The heart knows how to rest. But you have decided you must manage everything, even the natural movements of life." Sora looked down. "I'm afraid that if I let go, I'll lose the path." Master Narin watched him quietly, then asked, "Who is afraid?" Sora froze. The question wasn't philosophical. It wasn't a debate prompt. It was a mirror. Sora swallowed. "I am afraid." Master Narin shook his head slightly. "There is fear," he said. "But you don't need to build a person around it." Sora stood still, feeling the familiar structure inside him. I, the diligent monk, the one who tries hard, begin to wobble. Master Narin gestured toward the courtyard path. "Walk with me," he said. They walked slowly along the temple grounds. The morning air was crisp. A few monks crossed their path carrying buckets. A crow called from somewhere above the roofline. Nothing in the world seemed to be straining as hard as Sora had been straining. Master Narin stopped near the water basin. A thin stream of water trickled into stone, steady and indifferent to human effort. "You see this water?" Master Narin asked. Sora nodded. "Is it practicing being water?" Master Narin asked. Sora frowned. "No. It is water," Master Narin said. "It flows because that is what it does." He looked at Sora. "Your problem is that you want to do Zen," he said. "You want to achieve it. You want to hold it. You want to be praised by your own mind for being a good monk." Sora's throat tightened. He wanted to deny it, but the words were too accurate. Master Narin continued. "So even sleep becomes another test." They resumed walking. Sora's eyes drifted to a cat near the kitchen door, curled in a patch of sun. The cat's body rose and fell, with breath utterly unconcerned with spiritual attainment. Master Narin noticed where Sora was looking. "When that cat sleeps," he said, "it sleeps." Sora remained silent. Master Narin's voice became almost gentle. "When you sit, just sit," he said. "When you eat, just eat. When you work, just work. And when you sleep." He paused, as if allowing the sentence to finish itself. "Just sleep," Sora whispered. Master Narin nodded. For a moment, Sora felt irritation again. This is too simple. This can't be the whole teaching. But then another memory rose. Master Harun holding a crying baby without defending himself. Renji learning the Dharma in a few drops of water. Master Baishu writing plainly to a dying disciple. Master Keishu scratching out a title until only a name remained. Zen did not keep handing them complicated answers. Zen kept handing them reality. Sora asked quietly, "But how is that practice?" Master Narin looked at him with a steadiness that felt like the mountain itself. "Because practice is not an extra layer," he said. "Practice is the absence of unnecessary layers. The mind that adds struggle creates suffering. The mind that adds performance creates distance." He tapped his chest lightly with 2 fingers. "Be here," he said. "Not as a project, not as an improvement plan, just here." Sora felt his eyes sting, not because he was sad, but because he was tired. Tired of fighting himself. Tired of measuring himself. Tired of trying to control what could not be controlled. That evening, when Sora lay down to sleep, he felt the old habit rise immediately. He noticed his mind reaching, trying to do it right. He remembered Master Narin's words. Sleep is not a place for effort. So he let the breath come and go without gripping it. He let thoughts drift without chasing them. He did not try to hold awareness like a trophy. He simply lay there. And as sleep approached, it felt different. Not like failure, not like falling off the path. It felt like entering the path, a natural surrender, a small death each night that the body knows how to do without fear. In the darkness, Sora understood something quietly revolutionary. To practice at all times does not mean to maintain a constant tight awareness. It means to stop abandoning the present moment in favor of a mental story. If you are present, you are practicing. If you are not present, you are dreaming, whether your eyes are open or closed. And the greatest kindness you can offer yourself is to stop turning life into an exam. So Sora slept. Truly slept. And for the first time in a long time, his sleep felt like part of the Dharma, not a break from it. Because when you stop dividing life into sacred and ordinary, everything becomes the path. After Sora learned to stop turning sleep into a battlefield, the monastery seemed to breathe more easily. It wasn't that the work became lighter or the rules became softer. The bell still rang at the same hour. The floors still needed scrubbing. The rice still had to be washed. The wood still had to be chopped. But something in Sora had unclenched, and that unclenching quietly changed how he moved through everything. When you stop forcing life, you begin to notice life. And that is often when new visitors arrive, drawn somehow to the calm they don't know how to name. One afternoon, a merchant came to Master Narin's temple. He was a man of success, the kind who wore fine fabric without thinking about it. His hair was neatly tied. His sandals were clean. Even his posture carried the practiced confidence of someone used to being listened to. But his eyes betrayed him. They had the restless shine of a man who had acquired many things and still could not settle. He bowed at the gate with careful politeness and asked to speak with Master Narin. The monks used to visitors with hidden hunger brought him into a small room where Master Narin sat with a cup of tea. The merchant bowed deeply, then sat across from him. For a moment, the merchant seemed unsure where to begin. He cleared his throat, glanced briefly at the sparse room, plain wood, simple mat. Nothing to impress, and then returned his gaze to Master Narin. "Master," he said, "I've come with a question about giving." Master Narin nodded, as if this were the most ordinary thing in the world. "Speak," he said. The merchant's voice was controlled, but beneath it was a tension that sounded like calculation. "I have been prosperous," he said. "My business has grown. I employ many people. I have stores in several towns." He paused as if waiting for admiration. Master Naren offered none. He only waited. The merchant continued slightly more quickly. "People tell me I should give more. That generosity brings merit. That if I donate to temples, if I sponsor ceremonies, if I support the poor, then my life will be balanced." He swallowed. "I'm willing to give," he said, "but I want to give correctly." Master Naren's expression did not change. "What is correct?" he asked. The merchant hesitated. "The right amount," he said. "The exact proportion." Master Naren's eyes narrowed just a fraction, not in suspicion but in clarity, as if he had found the thread that would unravel the whole knot. "Exact proportion," he repeated. "Yes," the merchant said, leaning forward. "How much should I give? 10%, 20, half? I want to know the proper number so I can do it and be at peace." He spoke the last words with quiet desperation. "And be at peace." Master Naren set his cup down softly. "You want a number," he said. The merchant nodded quickly, relieved to be understood. "Yes, a clear guideline. I don't want to be selfish, but I also don't want to be foolish." Master Naren looked at him for a long moment. Then he stood. "Come," he said. The merchant blinked. "Where?" "To the pond, Master." Naren replied. The merchant rose at once, eager. Perhaps he expected a private teaching and impressive demonstration, something he could later describe to his friends as proof that he had met a wise master. They walked through the temple grounds. The afternoon light was soft, slanting through pine branches. A few monks were sweeping leaves. A bell rope swayed slightly in the wind. At the edge of the property, there was a small pond. It was not grand, just a modest body of water, bordered by stones and reeds. In the center, the surface reflected the sky like a quiet mirror. A dragonfly hovered above it, then darted away. Master Naren stopped at the water's edge. The merchant stood beside him, waiting. Master Naren bent down and picked up a small stone from the ground. He held it between his fingers. "Look at the water," he said. The merchant looked. It was calm. Master Naren asked, "If I drop this stone into the pond, what happens?" The merchant frowned, slightly unsure why the answer mattered. "It makes ripples," he said. Master Naren nodded. He let the stone fall. It struck the water with a soft plunk. Ripples spread outward in circles, one ring becoming two, two becoming many, moving across the surface until they reached the stones at the edge. The merchant watched silently. Master Naren asked, "How far did the ripples go?" The merchant gestured vaguely. "To the edge." Master Naren nodded again. Then he bent down and picked up a larger stone. Not huge, but heavier enough to feel in the hand. He held it up. "If I drop this," he asked, "what happens?" "Bigger ripples," the merchant said, a little impatient now. Master Naren dropped it. The splash was louder. The rings spread wider and faster, disrupting the pond's surface more dramatically. The water shook against the border stones, and tiny waves lapped at the reeds. Master Naren looked at the merchant. "You see," he said. The merchant nodded, but his expression was uncertain. "Yes. But what does this have to do with giving?" Master Naren did not answer directly. Instead, he asked, "When you give, what do you want?" The merchant opened his mouth, then hesitated. "I want..." He searched for the proper answer. "I want to help others." Master Naren waited. The merchant felt his own dishonesty under the words. He sighed. "And I want merit," he admitted quietly. "I want balance. I want my wealth not to feel dirty." Master Naren nodded, as if the confession were a beginning, not a sin. "And you want to know the exact proportion," he said. "Yes," the merchant said, almost pleading now. "Just tell me the number." Master Naren turned back to the pond. The ripples had faded and the surface was returning to stillness. Then he said, "You are asking for a number because you want to keep control." The merchant stiffened. "Control? You want to pay a certain amount," Master Naren said, "so you can stop thinking about it. So you can say, 'I have done my duty.'" The merchant's face flushed slightly. Master Naren continued calm and direct. "But generosity is not a tax," he said. "It is not a bargain with the universe." He pointed gently to the pond. "Look at the ripples," he said. "A small stone makes small ripples. A large stone makes large ripples. The proportion is not an abstract number. It is the natural result of what you throw into the water." The merchant stared at the pond, trying to understand. Master Naren looked at him again. "Your life," he said, "is also water. Everything you do creates ripples. How you pay your workers, how you speak to your family, how you treat the weak when no one is watching." The merchant's throat tightened. Master Naren's voice softened slightly, but the clarity remained sharp. "So if you want the exact proportion," he said, "do not ask me for a number. Ask yourself, how far do your ripples reach?" The merchant swallowed. "I don't understand." Master Naren said, "If your wealth creates suffering, if it is built on squeezing others, then no percentage will cleanse it. If your wealth supports life, if it protects, nourishes, and uplifts, then even a small gift can carry true generosity." The merchant felt his chest tighten, as if something inside him had been seen too clearly. He wanted a simple formula. Master Naren was giving him a mirror instead. Master Naren picked up one last stone, small, smooth, and rolled it between his fingers. "One more question," he said. The merchant looked at him. Master Naren asked, "When the water becomes still again, where did the ripples go?" The merchant watched the pond. The rings were gone. The surface looked calm as before. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Because the answer was not a place. The ripples had not gone anywhere. They had simply become the pond again. And in that quiet, the merchant felt the first hint of what Master Naren was pointing toward. Giving is not a number you calculate. It is a way you live, so the ripples you create do not poison the water you also depend on. The merchant stood beside the pond as if he had been brought to court. Not the courthouse of Judge Okada, where accusations were shouted and evidence was displayed, but a quieter court one, where the witness was his own mind and the judge was simple clarity. He had come seeking a number, 10%, 20%, a clean formula he could apply like a seal stamped onto his life. Instead, Master Naren had given him water and stones and a question that refused to be measured. How far do your ripples reach? For a long time, the merchant said nothing. The pond's surface had returned to stillness. The reeds stood upright again. The world looked as it had before the stones fell, as if nothing had happened. Yet the merchant felt that something inside him had been disturbed. He finally spoke, his voice quieter than when he arrived. "There is no correct amount?" he asked. Master Naren didn't answer immediately. He bent down and touched the pond's surface with his fingertips, barely enough to make a tiny disturbance. A small ring spread outward and vanished quickly. Then he looked at the merchant. "There is a correct amount," he said, "but it cannot be borrowed from someone else. It must come from seeing." The merchant's brow tightened. Seeing what your life is doing," Master Naren replied. "Not what you tell yourself it is doing, not what you display in public, what it is actually doing." The merchant felt a prick of defensiveness. "My business is successful," he said. "I provide work." Master Naren lifted his hand gently. "Yes," he said. "You provide work." He paused. "And how do you provide it?" The merchant opened his mouth and stopped, because he knew the answer was not as clean as he wanted it to be. He paid wages, but he also squeezed. He negotiated ruthlessly. He delayed payments when he could. He told himself it was strategy efficiency, the way the world worked. He believed he was simply being smart. Yet he remembered faces, workers with tired eyes, apprentices who bowed too quickly, women who accepted coins with hands that trembled slightly from exhaustion. He remembered times he had felt a small shame and quickly covered it with logic. Master Naren watched him without accusation. "The ripples are not only your donations," Master Naren said. "The ripples are every choice. When you underpay a worker, that is a stone. When you speak harshly, that is a stone. When you cheat a customer, that is a stone." The merchant's throat tightened. "And when you give," Master Naren continued, "that is also a stone. But if you give with one hand and harm with the other, the pond does not become clean because you threw a flower into it." The words struck hard because they were simple. The merchant looked down at the pond as if it were showing him his own reflection more honestly than any mirror. He whispered, "Then what should I do?" Master Naren's voice softened. "First," he said, "stop treating generosity as a payment." The merchant frowned. "A payment? You want to buy peace," Master Naren said. "You want to buy a clean conscience. You want to buy spiritual safety. That is not giving. That is trade." The merchant's face flushed, but he didn't deny it. Master Naren continued, "Second, stop making it about your image. Some people donate to be seen. Some donate to be praised. Some donate to avoid being judged. These are also trades." The merchant swallowed, remembering how he had imagined telling others, "I give this much. I support temples. I am a good man." Master Naren looked at him steadily. "If you want the exact proportion," he said, "measure this. How much of your life is guided by care?" The merchant's eyes lifted. "Care. Care for your workers," Master Naren said. "Care for your family. Care for strangers. Care for the truth. Care for the consequences of your choices." The merchant breathed out slowly. He had spent years treating life like an account book. Profit here, loss there, risk and reward, balance. But Master Naren was pointing to a different kind of accounting, one that did not use numbers, but conscience. The merchant asked, "And how will I know when it's enough?" Master Naren turned again to the pond. He picked up a stone and held it in his palm. "Do you know what is strange about ripples?" he asked. The merchant shook his head. Master Naren dropped the stone lightly. A small ring spread outward. "The ripple does not ask, 'Am I big enough?'" Master Naren said. "It simply moves outward until it meets the edge of what it can touch." He looked at the merchant. "Your generosity is like that. It will naturally expand as your heart expands. But if your heart is tight, Even a large donation will be tight. The merchant stood very still. Then he said something honest, something that felt to him almost humiliating. "My heart is tight," he admitted. Master Narin nodded as if this were the beginning of real practice. "Then start where it is tight," he said. The merchant looked confused. Where Master Narin pointed not to the temple, not to the donation box, not to the altar. He pointed toward the road that led back to town. "Start in your business," he said. The merchant's mouth opened slightly. Master Narin continued, "Pay your workers fairly. Stop delaying wages as a tactic. Stop making people afraid of you. Speak with respect. If you have taken too much, return some without drama. If you have harmed, repair." The merchant felt a sudden fear, because those changes would cost him money, and money to him had always meant safety. Master Narin seemed to see that fear immediately. "Do you know why you need an exact percentage?" he asked. The merchant didn't answer. "Because if you have a number," Master Narin said, "you can give that number and keep the rest untouched. You can protect your wealth from being questioned." The merchant's shoulders sagged slightly. It was true. Master Narin's voice remained calm, but it carried the firmness of something that would not flatter him. "Giving is not only what you do with surplus," he said. "It is what you do with power." They stood in silence. The pond reflected sky and pine branches unmoved by human struggle. At last, the merchant bowed deeply. It was not the polished bow of a man paying respect for social advantage. It was the bow of someone who had been shown something uncomfortable and could not unsee it. "I will try," he said. Master Narin nodded once. "Do not try to become generous," he said. "Just stop being cruel in small ways. The rest will unfold." The merchant left the temple that afternoon with no number in his pocket. But he carried a sharper awareness. Over the weeks that followed, people in town noticed small changes. A worker who had been underpaid received extra coins without explanation. A supplier whose goods had been bargained down harshly was treated more fairly. Apprentices began to speak of the merchant with less fear and more respect. The merchant did not suddenly become a saint. He still felt greed rise. He still felt impatience. He still worried about loss. But now each time those impulses rose, he remembered the pond. He remembered that every choice was a stone, and he began to ask himself, not, "How little can I give and still be good?" but "What kind of water am I living in? What kind of ripples am I creating?" And as those questions became habitual, the exact proportion began to reveal itself, not as a percentage, but as a life slowly turning toward care. After the merchant left with no percentage and no tidy formula, the temple returned to its quiet routines. But word travels in strange ways. Some teachings spread like fragrance soft, almost unnoticed, changing people without announcing themselves. Others spread like irritation. They provoke the mind that wants certainty, the mind that wants a system it can control. And before long, another visitor arrived. He was a scholar, not a monk of practical training, but a man known for intellect and debate. In his own circles, he was admired for sharp logic and quick speech. He had read deeply collected commentaries, memorized passages, and built a reputation like a tall tower, impressive, visible, difficult to ignore. He came to Master Narin's temple with confidence, not the confidence of someone seeking help like the merchant, but the confidence of someone arriving to test a teacher. He brought with him a small bundle of texts and a mind already rehearsing arguments. He imagined the encounter the way he imagined most encounters: a question, a clever answer, a counterpoint, a victory. When he reached the gate, a novice greeted him and asked his name. The scholar gave it with a slight lift of his chin and requested an audience with Master Narin. The novice bowed and led him through the courtyard. The scholar noticed how ordinary everything looked. The broom marks on the stone steps, the plain wood of the halls, the monks moving quietly with buckets and baskets. It all seemed too simple, too lacking in the grandeur he associated with great teachers. He told himself simplicity could be a performance too, a kind of spiritual costume. They arrived at a small room, warmed by a brazier. A kettle simmered softly. The smell of tea and charcoal filled the air. Master Narin sat near the hearth. He looked up as the scholar entered, and his gaze was calm and unremarkable, like a clear pond that refuses to reflect your drama. The scholar bowed politely enough to show manners, not enough to show submission, and sat. Without waiting long, he began. Master Narin, he said, I have studied the teachings for many years. I have read the sutras, the commentaries, the treatises. I understand emptiness-dependent origination, the nature of mind, the stages of awakening. His voice carried the familiar confidence of someone naming credentials. Master Narin nodded slightly, as if acknowledging the weather. The scholar continued, I have heard that you teach a direct path, that you dismiss conceptual understanding. But surely without correct doctrine, one can fall into error. He paused, then offered a crisp challenge. Tell me, Master, he said, what is the true nature of mind? The question hung there, polished and sharp. The scholar expected an answer, a phrase he could analyze, a statement he could dispute. But Master Narin simply looked at him. A long moment passed. The scholar's smile tightened slightly. Master, he prompted. Master Narin's face remained calm. He reached for the tea kettle, poured tea into 2 cups, and slid one toward the scholar. No answer. The scholar stared at the cup as if it were an insult. He tried again. If mind is empty, he said then, who is it that practices? If there is no self who attains enlightenment, please clarify. Master Narin lifted his own cup and took a slow sip. Still no answer. A faint flush rose in the scholar's cheeks. Silence to a mind that prides itself on speech feels like being ignored. He leaned forward a little sharper now. Perhaps you prefer koans, he said. Very well. Answer this. If all phenomena are empty, is emptiness itself empty? Master Narin set his cup down and looked toward the brazier. The coals glowed steady and red. He did not speak. The scholar's irritation grew. He began to talk faster, as if speed could force a response. He quoted passages. He referenced lineages. He cited famous teachers. He presented arguments the way a swordsman presents forms, confident, precise, certain of his skill. Master Narin listened without interruption, but he did not engage. After a while, the scholar's voice began to feel loud in the small room. His words bounced off the wood walls and returned to him as if the room itself were unimpressed. He stopped breathing hard. Master Narin looked at him and said at last one gentle sentence. Are you finished? The scholar blinked, startled. Finished, he repeated. Master Narin's tone was neither mocking nor annoyed. It was simple, almost kindly. Finish speaking, he said. The scholar felt a spike of embarrassment. He straightened. No, he said. "I am trying to have a serious discussion." Master Naren nodded as if he understood. Then he said, "Stay the night." The scholar hesitated. "Why?" "Because your mouth is tired," Master Naren replied. The scholar did not know whether he was being mocked, but curiosity and pride kept him from leaving. He agreed to stay. That evening, the monastery moved into its night rhythm. Chanting rose like a low tide and then receded. Lamps were dimmed. The halls grew quiet. Outside, the wind moved through pines with a sound like distant surf. The scholar was given a simple meal and a mat to sit on in the room near the hearth. Master Naren remained there too, sitting quietly, occasionally tending the fire. The scholar expected that at some point the real teaching would begin an explanation, a debate, a moment of intellectual triumph. Instead, nothing happened. Hours passed. Master Naren did not present a lecture. He did not offer a riddle. He did not respond to the scholar's earlier questions. He simply sat. The scholar, restless, tried again to provoke conversation. "Master," he said, "do you deny the importance of scripture?" Master Naren stared into the fire. No answer. The scholar shifted uncomfortably. "Master," he said more insistently, "what is enlightenment?" Master Naren reached for a piece of wood, placed it on the coals, and watched the flame take it. No answer. The scholar's mind began to spin. He felt trapped in a silence that did not validate him, did not fight him, did not even acknowledge him in the way debate partners do. He realized how much he depended on resistance. In argument, an opponent's reply proves you matter. It proves your words have weight. But here, his words fell into a space that swallowed them without echo. A strange fatigue began to rise in him, not physical alone, but a deeper exhaustion, like the tiredness of someone who has been running for years and suddenly realizes he does not know why. Eventually, near midnight, the scholar's voice faltered. He stopped speaking. Not because he had been convinced, because he had run out of fuel. The room was quiet, except for the soft crackle of the brazier. Master Naren sat as still as the temple beams. In the dim light, the scholar noticed something. Master Naren's silence was not empty in the way the scholar had imagined silence. It was full of the fire's glow, full of the kettle's faint simmer, full of breath entering and leaving the body. The scholar watched the flames. They rose, they fell, they consumed wood without needing to explain themselves, and slowly against his will, his mind began to settle not into agreement, but into a kind of seeing that had nothing to do with winning. Master Naren finally spoke quietly, as if continuing a conversation that had always been happening. "Tonight," he said, "you wanted me to answer your questions." The scholar swallowed, unsure how to respond. Master Naren continued, "But you came carrying answers already. You came to exchange words, to trade concepts." He gestured slightly toward the brazier. "Sit," he said, "and meet the fire." The scholar stared at the glowing coals. Meet the fire. He didn't understand, not yet, but he felt in his bones that the night was not finished with him, because Master Naren was not refusing to teach. He was refusing to feed the scholar's addiction to explanation. And somewhere in that refusal, a different door was beginning to appear. The scholar sat before the brazier long after midnight. At first, he tried to do what he always did: interpret. He stared at the coals and searched for meaning the way a hungry man searches a cupboard. He tried to turn the fire into a symbol wisdom. purification, emptiness, passion, impermanence. He tried to build a small lecture in his mind, something elegant he could later repeat. But the fire did not cooperate. It simply burned. It did not care what he called it. It did not confirm his theories. It did not argue back. And as the hours passed, the scholar's mind grew quieter, not because he had won or lost, but because he had nothing left to push against. His body was tired. His mouth was tired. His pride was tired. At some point he realized he had been sitting in front of the fire without thinking for several breaths in a row, just watching, just feeling the warmth on his face. That frightened him a little. Because for a scholar, silence feels like a loss of identity. Near dawn, Master Narin stood and added a piece of wood to the coals. The flames flared briefly, then settled. The scholar looked up as if this motion were finally the beginning of a lesson. Master Narin turned toward him. "You have read many texts," Master Narin said. The scholar nodded cautiously. "You have understood many ideas," Master Narin continued. The scholar nodded again, a faint pride trying to revive itself. Master Narin's eyes were calm. "Then answer this," he said. The scholar straightened ready. Master Narin pointed to the brazier and asked, "Is the fire hot?" The scholar almost laughed. "Of course," he said. "Fire is hot." Master Narin nodded once. Then he reached to the side and picked up a long iron tool used for tending coals, a fire poker. It was dark metal warmed at one end from earlier use. Master Narin held it lightly, as if it were nothing special. Then he extended the poker toward the scholar. "Take it," he said. The scholar hesitated. The tool looked harmless enough. But something in the way Master Narin's eyes rested on him made the simple act feel oddly significant. He took the poker. For a moment, it felt merely warm. Then, as his grip tightened, he realized he had taken hold closer to the heated end than he intended. A sharp heat surged into his palm. The scholar jerked his hand back instinctively. The poker clattered to the floor. He sucked in air, startled pain flashing through his hand. His face tightened. His eyes watered. Master Narin watched without expression. The scholar cradled his hand, breathing fast. "Master," he blurted, half angry, half ashamed. "It's hot." Master Narin nodded. "Yes," he said. "It is hot." The scholar stared at him, confused by the calmness. Master Narin asked, "Now tell me, what is fire?" The scholar's mouth opened, and nothing came out, because the question had changed. A moment ago, the scholar could have answered with definitions. Combustion, heat, the element of fire, the transformation of wood into flame and ash. He could have offered metaphors and citations, beautiful explanations woven from language. But now his palm was throbbing. Now the fire was not a concept. It was direct, immediate, undeniable. Master Narin's voice remained gentle. Before he said, "You told me fire is hot." The scholar swallowed, still holding his hand. "Yes." Master Narin continued, "But you did not know it." The scholar's cheeks burned not from the fire now, but from the bluntness of the truth. Master Narin's gaze was steady. "You knew it in words," he said, "in memory, in thought, but not in the way the body knows." The scholar looked down at his reddening palm. It was such a small thing, such a simple mistake. And yet it had pierced through his mind like an arrow. Master Narin pointed toward the brazier. "Zen is like that," he said. The scholar looked up slowly. Master Narin continued, You came asking about the true nature of mind, about emptiness, about enlightenment. You wanted me to hand you an answer you could carry away. The scholar's lips tightened. Master Naren did not press him. He simply spoke like someone describing weather. But if I give you words, he said, you will do what you always do. You will store them. You will polish them. You will use them to win. You will build another tower. He paused. And you will still not know. The scholar's breathing slowed. Master Naren's voice softened further. Words are not wrong, he said. But if you hide behind them, they become a wall. A scholar can describe water perfectly and still die of thirst. The scholar's eyes flicked toward the tea kettle. Master Naren followed his gaze and poured tea into a cup. He offered it to the scholar. Drink, he said. The scholar accepted it carefully, still stinging from the poker. He took a sip. The tea was warm, slightly bitter grounding. Master Naren watched him. Tell me, he said, is the tea warm? The scholar almost smiled despite himself. Yes, he said. Master Naren asked, how do you know? The scholar held the cup, feeling the warmth against his fingers, tasting it on his tongue. I feel it, he said. Master Naren nodded. Good, he said. Now you are answering honestly. Silence settled again, but it was a different silence than before. Not the silence of being ignored, the silence of a mind that has stopped performing for a moment. The scholar looked at his hand again. Pain pulsed, then softened, then pulsed again, like a small bell, reminding him of something he had almost forgotten. Reality is not a debate. It is what is. He bowed slightly, not with polished confidence, but with something more human. Master, he said quietly, I see. Master Naren did not smile, as if receiving praise. He only asked, what do you see? The scholar hesitated, searching for words, then stopped himself. He looked at the brazier, the glow, the quiet morning light beginning to seep through paper windows, the breath moving in his body. I see, he began, then let the sentence dissolve. Because the moment did not need to be trapped in language. Master Naren nodded once, as if that silence were the best answer the scholar had offered all night. Return to your life, Master Naren said. Return to your books if you must. But do not confuse the menu with the meal. The scholar bowed more deeply. When he left the temple later that morning, he carried his texts under his arm as before. But his grip was looser, and his eyes, though still sharp, had a new softness, like someone who had finally tasted water after years of describing it. When the scholar left Master Naren's temple, he did not leave with a new argument. He left with a sore hand and a quieter mind, an experience that could not be debated away. In the weeks that followed, he still read and studied, but something in him had shifted. He began to notice how easily words become armor, how quickly understanding becomes a performance, and that in a strange way prepared the ground for another lesson. Because once you stop worshipping your own tradition as the only doorway, you begin to recognize truth when it wears unfamiliar clothes. This next story takes place in a different temple, in a different region, where a Zen teacher named Master Genshin lived. Genshin was not famous for loud teaching. His practice was steady, his manner plain, his mind direct. People came to him not for entertainment, but for the quiet certainty that he would not flatter their confusion. One afternoon, a visitor arrived who did not look like the usual temple guest. He was a young foreign student, at least foreign to that region, traveling with a small pack and a notebook. His clothes were simple, his manner respectful, and his eyes carried the alert curiosity of someone trying to learn his way through an unfamiliar world. The monks at the gate asked what he wanted. He bowed awkwardly, as if still learning the shape of the gesture, and said, "I would like to speak with Master Genshin." When he was brought into the meeting room, he introduced himself more fully. "My name is Elias," he said. "I am a student of the Bible." The monks exchanged quick glances. A Bible student. In that place and time, it was unusual. Not unheard of, but unusual enough that some minds would already begin building walls. This is not our path. This is not our language. This is not our truth. Master Genshin, however, did not stiffen. He simply looked at Elias with steady eyes and said, "Welcome." Elias sat down, relieved by the lack of hostility. "I have been reading," Elias said, "and I have questions about prayer and spiritual life. I heard that Zen masters understand the mind in a direct way. I want to learn." Master Genshin nodded once. "Speak." Elias opened his notebook, then hesitated as if choosing the right entry point. "In the Bible," he said, "there is a passage I cannot stop thinking about." He looked up. It says, "Consider the lilies of the field. They do not toil or spin." He spoke the line carefully, as if placing it gently between them. Elias continued, "And there is another teaching. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened." He leaned forward slightly earnest. "These words feel close to something I've felt in meditation," he said. "But I don't know how to live them. I don't know how to stop striving. And I don't know what it means to ask and seek without turning it into desperation." Master Genshin listened quietly. When Elias finished, the room was still. The student expected the usual reaction he had received in some places: polite dismissal, a hint that his tradition was inferior, a subtle push back towards Zen scriptures. Instead, Master Genshin asked only one question. "When you read those words," Genshin said, "what do you feel?" Elias blinked, surprised. "I feel," he searched, "I feel a kind of relief, as if life doesn't have to be clenched, as if there is something that already holds us." Master Genshin nodded. "And what prevents you from living that relief?" he asked. Elias looked down at his hands. "My mind," he admitted. "My fear, my constant planning, my need to be good enough." Master Genshin's expression remained calm. Then he said, "Show me the lilies." Elias looked confused. "Master, where are they?" Genshin asked. Elias glanced toward the paper window. Outside the temple garden was visible stones, moss, a few shrubs. Beyond that, the wild edge of the hillside. "There," Elias said, pointing faintly. "In the fields, beyond the garden." Master Genshin stood. "Come," he said. They walked outside. The air was mild, carrying the smell of soil and leaves. A soft wind moved through the bamboo. The garden was tidy near the temple, but beyond the stones, the hillside grew wilder. Grass, small plants, scattered blooms that no one had planted intentionally. Master Genshin led Elias to the edge where the field began. "Look," Genshin said. Elias looked. Among the grass were small wildflowers, some pale, some bright, growing without order, without discipline, without anyone praising them. Master Genshin pointed to one. "Does it practice being a flower?" he asked. Elias shook his head. "No." "Does it worry if it is spiritual enough?" Genshin asked. Elias almost smiled. "No." Genshin nodded. It opens when it opens, he said. It closes when it closes. It receives sun. It receives rain. It does not refuse life. Elias felt something in his chest soften. Master Genshin continued. The scripture says they do not toil or spin. This is not laziness. This is intimacy with reality. Elias looked at the flowers again. He had read the passage many times, but seeing the small blooms in front of him changed it. Words became immediate. Then Elias remembered the other line. Ask, seek, knock, he said. What does that mean here? Master Genshin turned his gaze toward Elias. Have you ever knocked on a door in a hurry? He asked. Yes, Elias said. And what happens? Genshin asked. I knock harder, Elias admitted. Genshin nodded. And you become angry if it does not open, he said. Elias lowered his eyes. Yes, Master Genshin's voice was gentle. That is not knocking, he said. That is demanding. Elias breathed out slowly. Master Genshin continued. To ask is to open your hands. To seek is to walk sincerely. To knock is to meet what is in front of you without forcing. He pointed again to the field. The lilies are already teaching you, he said. They are not trying to be lilies. They are not trying to deserve sunlight. They simply receive what comes. Elias felt tears rise unexpectedly, not because he was sad, because something in him recognized home. Master Genshin watched him quietly, then said something that surprised the monks nearby, who were listening from a distance. Truth is not owned, he said. If your scripture points you toward a mind that can unclench, then it is pointing toward truth. Zen does not need to compete with it. Elias looked up, startled. You're saying, it's the same, he asked. Master Genshin shook his head slightly. Not the same in words, he said. Not the same in forms, but the same in the direction of the heart. Elias stood in silence, looking at the flowers. In that moment, he understood something that felt both obvious and revolutionary. The world was not divided into my tradition and your tradition as cleanly as the mind wanted. There were different languages, different rituals, different names for the sacred, but the unclenching of the heart, the settling of the mind, the simple ability to receive life that was universal. Master Genshin turned back toward the temple. Come, he said, we will have tea. As they walked, Elias felt a new kind of gratitude. Not the gratitude of having found a better argument. The gratitude of having found a teacher who could recognize a flower, no matter what book had named it. And now, we come to a quiet stopping place. Not because the path has ended, but because the night has reached a soft threshold, one where the mind no longer needs another lesson, another turning of the page, another proof. So let the stories settle. Let them sink the way warm tea sinks into the body. If you listen closely, you can feel how each story has been pointing in the same direction again and again with different faces. Master Harun showed us what happens when reputation collapses, and yet the heart remains steady. When the world demanded defense, he offered presence. When the world offered blame, he offered care. Renji learned that practice is not reserved for grand moments. It lives in the smallest act, the way a bucket is carried, the way a single drop of water is respected, the way attention is not thrown away as too little to matter. Master Baishu wrote to Akio at the edge of life and death, and the letter did not decorate reality. It did not bargain with fear. It pointed to what is not born and therefore cannot die, inviting the mind to rest in something deeper than the body's changing weather. Master Joan, the brilliant scholar, was awakened by his mother's simple love. Not a philosophical argument, just one honest mirror. And with that mirror, he learned the difference between knowing the map and walking the land. Judge Okada reminded us that clarity can be sharper than anger. Sometimes the wisest justice is not the loudest punishment, but the quiet construction of a mirror so the guilty cannot hide from themselves. Toru, with his clumsy black paint, showed us another paradox, that devotion does not always look beautiful. Sometimes protection wears the face of embarrassment. Sometimes care risks misunderstanding. Then the Buddha lifted a flower, no words, no explanation, and Mahakashyapa smiled. As if to say the truth is not always something you can carry in language. Sometimes it is simply seen. Governor Takamori learned that titles are heavy robes. When you scratch them out, only a name remains. Only a human being remains. And in that reduction, something precious returns contact with real life. Master Banrei, closing the matter of the lizard soup, revealed responsibility as compassion. Not the kind of compassion that performs, but the kind that ends unnecessary suffering in one clean motion, without blame, without drama. Sora learned that practice is not a constant tightening. When you sleep, you sleep. When you breathe, you breathe. The path is not a project. It is what remains when you stop fighting the natural rhythm of being alive. The merchant learned that generosity is not a number. It is not a percentage you pay to buy a clean conscience. It is the shape of your ripples, how your choices touch others, how your power is used, how your life either poisons the water or helps it return to stillness. And the scholar learned through a simple fire poker that reality is not won in debate. It is touched. It is tasted. It is felt directly, like warmth in the palm, like tea on the tongue, like breath moving in the body. Finally, Elias the Bible student stood in a field of lilies and discovered that truth is not owned by one tradition. Different words may point from different directions, but the heart's unclenching is recognizable anywhere. The mind's return to simplicity is universal. So if anything is meant to remain with you tonight, let it be this. You do not need to force the night to become peaceful. You do not need to fight your mind into silence. You do not need to win an argument against yourself. You only need to come back. Back to the breath. Back to the body. Back to this moment exactly as it is. And now, as you rest here at the edge of sleep, allow your awareness to soften. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the bed, or the pillow, or the mat beneath you. Let the forehead smooth. Let the muscles around the eyes release. Let your tongue rest in the mouth. Let the shoulders fall a little further, as if the day is finally being set down. Take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. If thoughts come, it's okay. You don't have to chase them away. Just let them drift, like leaves on a quiet stream. And if you find yourself listening to these stories night after night, returning to this calm space again and again, know that you're always welcome here. This is The Long Night, a place to unwind the mind, one gentle teaching at a time. If you'd like to support the channel, you can subscribe and return whenever you need a steady voice in the dark. It helps. The Long Night keep creating long, quiet journeys so you always have somewhere to come back to. Now, There is nothing you need to do. No more seeking, no more effort. Just rest. And if sleep is ready to take you, let it come naturally, like the pond returning to stillness after ripples, like the flower opening without trying, like the breath continuing on its own. Good night.